All right, let's see here. Let's see if we're rocking here. If it is or isn't, let's have a look. Okay. All right, we seem to be working now. If it does mess up again, folks, we'll make sure we go through the whole computer before we get back on. Because, like I said, I'd like to do another one on Wednesday. So we're going to see what happens here um, and go from there. Let's see. So, just to recap, we were talking about Bart Sabrell here. How, let me see here. Where you left off, boom, still have your tab. Yeah, I get it. Yes, we're back. Have the sound and picture now. Yep, we should be good. Joe Matthews, 8115. Hi from Texas. What's going on? Good to see you in there. Let's see, Joe. We got Bloom Domus, I guess it is. I'm not sure if that's right. 5x5. Appreciate that. But like I said, just to recap there, we were talking about Mr. Sabrell here and how he's a denier and how we already checked out some of this where he was younger when he had hair and gets clocked by Buzz Aldrin, which I think is hilarious as heck. But if I was him, I would literally look at him and go, are you retarded? Like, why would you think we didn't go? There's so many reasons to believe. Let me just bring this down a little bit. There's so many reasons to believe that we did because obviously Soviet Union at the time was watching us. There was ham operators listening in. You name it, they were doing it. So there's just so many ways to confirm that there was, they did go. And again, we did talk about how all you got to do is like, I just hit the microphone, I could say, and you can see it right here. When was the first time they measured the radiation belts? And of course, it was January 31 or 31st, 1958. So, again, they knew it was going to be an issue where they were like, okay, we have radiation here on Earth. What about outside, our atmosphere? So on, well, lower Earth orbit, call it what you will. Make sure this echo pot's off. So when you stop and think about it, it'd be harder to fake it than it is, to actually fake it, but whatever. And of course, I said, which one did they take as far as the, I took it the large, that one, okay. Which way did they take the path? And of course, the thinnest way out, the thinner of the magnetic fields, or I shouldn't say magnetic, but it's, yeah. Let me see here. The Van Allen belts, of course, they checked it out with these spacecraft and everything else, avoiding the core. You can see where they went. The inner belt carries heavy concentrations of high energy protons. So NASA plotted a trajectory taking the spacecraft through the upper, less dense geometric latitudes where radiation intensity is much lower. Just simple. You can overcome ignorance just by doing some research. Let's just put it that way. And then there was what was that other argument about? Oh, well, how'd they get the moon buggy in there? It's so stupid. There's no way the capsule was so small. Oh, well, look at it. Oh, my God, look at that. Space history photo, Apollo 16. This wasn't the 11, but still, they built it the same way. Inspect a lunar rover. And, of course, you can see right here in this 1971 photo, 2 Apollo 16 astronauts inspect the lunar rover vehicle before their mission. And, of course, it says, obviously, image credit goes to NASA. You see Commander John Young, Center, and Lunar Module Pilot Charles Duke, or they used to call him Charlie Duke. Foreground, inspect the lunar roving vehicle they will use for transportation on the moon during the deployment test in the manned spacecraft operations building at the Kennedy Space Center. So, yes, they literally folded this thing up, and there's a video out there. They literally show them pushing it back in. It's almost like one of those, what do they call those? Those beds that fold out of the wall. Same kind of thing, but they would pull cables. This thing would come down. The wheels would literally just spring open, and they could literally pick this thing up. Keep in mind, it's 1/6 of gravity. Take it, pull it off the thing, and put it down and just start using it. I mean, it's really, I don't know why he has a problem understanding this. It's, what do they call that? It's like a person who says, well, I don't believe something, and then what they'll do is they'll like look at the internet, search the internet to find other people that feel the same way. Yeah, I'm going to take his information and say, yeah, we didn't go. Yeah, we didn't take it. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. It's like anybody in modern day If you're ignorant, it's because you choose to be. And I don't mean to sound like that really mean, but the thing is, it's the way he comes off. You just got to watch it. I mean, it literally, it hurts your brain. Let's just put it that way. Murphy Bed, thank you, Third Eye Open. That's what I was looking for. So it's kind of the same way it comes out of a, but it literally folds into this. And if you really look at the, they're saying, well, it's made out of this tin foil. No, it's not. Go look at the actual photo. This was just shielding, gold shielding, like on the outside, just to stop some of these particles. The spacecraft is like I think it's very thin aluminum, but it's very solid. It's not this paper crap that anyway, it's mind-boggling to see people think this way. Yeah, pretty much. Jean Bouchier, doubting Thomas. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Derek Gantz is 6282 from Philadelphia Explorer rather. Sorry. Was that Lee PL9 VH rather? Long time no see. Yeah, it's been a while, man. I gotta get better glasses for this. The other ones I lost. That was actually better for this screen because I'm watching this one's perfect, but over there it's like it's a little more distance. We analyze the photos, rip them apart, and they were up there for that reason. They're looking at ancient, intelligent design, spacecraft, structures, call them what you will. And there's too many photos I've examined that show exactly that. So they're like, well, it's fake. Well, I can prove by the photos that they're not fake because once you, take these photos apart, you can see what's actually in the photos. Well, somewhat. Again, I'm not going to, if I'm a professional and NASA or any of these other space agencies say, listen, I need you to manipulate this photo. I need you to hide what you can on there. Why would I leave stuff on a stage, like they claim it is, on a stage just to block it out? Does that make sense to anybody? No. Not with anybody with any common sense. So I'm going to make sure it's completely void of anything on the stage. This way here, it's completely bare. I don't have to do anything to the photos. And yet we see that all the time. So, yeah. Let me see here. We see things on Mars that look like collapsed structures. We see stones that are carved. We see all these different things. Like, for instance, this right here. When you look at these stones, these blocks, got this nice radius to them. This rock here, this is wild. Let me see if I can get into this one here in the middle. Nice radius in the front. Nice and rounded. Flat piece. Corner. And it goes to the back, and it's basically symmetrical in the back. It's crazy. Here, this one right here, slants down, has this nice radius to its nice curvature. The bottom pretty much echoes the same thing. There is a block that goes around that one. You can see it right here, going on this middle one right here. There's a corner. Okay, this is what's funny too. Look at this. Look at this block way up here in the corner. And I'm going to show you the enhanced one in a second. You got these blocks, nice sharp corner. What are the chances of that on a planet that's never had life, according to NASA? Although they're starting to change the tune a little bit. So there might be microscopic life. Now let me show you the other one here. The enhanced version. Much more cleaned up. And you can see what looks like some kind of weird carving. It looks like there's a little weird animal. At least that's the way it appears. In my opinion, that's what it looks like. Right there. Okay, not sure what the heck that even is, but it looks like whatever it is, it's got ears or whatever. But regardless of that, I could care less about those. What I care about is these blocks right here. Again, this like arch radius type thing, got the slant coming down. Bottom almost echoes that. And then you got this curvature in the front of this, a nice radius. And in the back side of this thing, it kind of goes around. It looks like it has a corner right here. If you go by the block that's right on the side of it in the back, it's literally contoured to that block. So it comes back. It looks like it's got a 90-degree corner, at least if you go by this other block. Goes in, looks like it comes out a little bit in the back, comes all the way across, back in, and then to that corner. But you can see this nice radius. How? That doesn't make sense to me. Not again. Is it dropping out? Shouldn't be. That seems to be fine. Somebody said the audio might be drinking and dropping out. Seems to be all right. Truly exhausting. Brian Norton, 4025, welcome aboard. Yeah, you did. You said a mouthful there. You said the whole flat earthers and moon doubters are truly exhausting. So sick and tired of hearing that crap. Do some friggin' research. Exactly. It's the way I feel about it. Um, and again, we get this weird, which looks like reflective rock. It almost looks like a face. If you turn your head to the right, it looks like an eye and a mouth. Now, I'm not saying that's what it is, but it has that weird look to it. And again, we have this block again. Perfect corners, sharp 90-degree angles. Come on. There's just no way. And again, it looks like this weird little animal, in my opinion, carved into a rock. And again, I could be wrong, but that's the way it looks to me. Let me see. Eric, you said these photos are like a crackerjack box. One never knows what prize he or she is going to find inside. Um, Jerry Lahane, you said the sound is fine. Yeah, I just turn up the speakers in the other one just to make sure. So what I'm doing is I'm actually seeing what you folks are seeing. So if something buffers or whatever. Speaking of which, how many of you people have, and this is off the topic, but how many of you folks have T-Mobile internet? Just out of curiosity. Now you can say, no, I don't have it, or yes, I do. I'm just curious there for a second. Jerry, yeah, you're right. It says, you said rounded patterns and different angles. Yeah, there's no way this is natural. There's just no way. You can see this block here, the way this is like right here. It's like, now keep in mind, the rover did run over this area, okay? In fact, you can go back and you can see, you see the whole photo. You can see like there's like literally wheel marks in this thing. All right, Gene, it's good to see you back in there. Susie, good to see you back in here. Okay, so a couple of you said, no, not me. And as a friend, I'm going to suggest you don't. Okay, let me explain. This is another reason why I didn't get on there. So I get this thing. My daughter also gets it. She's like a stone's throw away. We're like, okay, let's get this. And it was like $50 a month. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. You know what I mean? I was paying like $110 through Comcast, right? This is perfect. I get the thing. It's a thing of beauty. So watching a movie, everything's good, everything's great. Until, now keep in mind, these work off a cell site like your phone does. Now I want you to imagine, like I live out in the suburbs. What they do is they overload the hell out of these cell sites. And you know what happens during the evening, right? That's right. The speed slows down. So now I can't even stream music. I'm going, okay, so how the hell am I going to do any kind of live, podcast? How am I going to do that? So just for the heck of it, I did a speed test on it. 1 meg down. Nothing up. There was no upload speed. I'm like, are you insane? So if it came to the weekend or evenings, yeah, you might as well hang it up. So I said, okay. So I take the thing back to T-Mobile. And he goes, you know what his answer was? He said, oh, that's because you got the bottom tier. I said, I don't care if it's a bottom tier or not. It's useless. It's a paperweight. It isn't worth shit. So the guy looked at me like kind of puzzled, like, I can't believe this guy's being this rude. It's like, why would you, basically you're renting this modem to people. It's a worthless piece of shit. Now, don't get me wrong. If you live in a city where there's more cell sites, they're being divided equally, so on and so forth, that may work. Other than that, it's useless if you live in the suburbs. Because in the evening, excuse me, everybody's surfing from, they're literally going through the internet on their phone. Now they're streaming through that off the same cells. Yeah, it's useless. So as a friend to you folks, don't get it. It's worthless. Now, if you do have it, it's working for you. You probably live in the city or there's not many people in that particular area. Brian Norton, you said to the left of rock, you said looks like an animal. To the left, it looks like a gray alien head. Yeah, I noticed that too. Yeah, I noticed that too. Cameroon, you said, I'm glad to be back. Missed the good live streams. I agree with you. I'm the same way. Mr. Happy Stacker 69, what's happening? Good to see you in there. And Jerry, you said I designed a 1987 deck. I remember you saying that. 20-foot long curving wing, scopes were behind captain's chair. Okay. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying right there in the back here. I got you. That's pretty wild. Well, Gene, you're right about that. I mean, you got to have a good signal. But here's the thing: signal to actual DB and everything else is totally different. If you live somewhere in the city or roughly in the city, you're probably going to do pretty well with it. You said I have T-Mobile router. The higher it says, the better it get, and it works. And you're right about that because you want to get maximum signal. I did. I had like 4 bars out of 5. That's not bad. The problem with it is like it still did not work correctly. I was like, I'm done with it. So the good thing is about it, you're not in some kind of lease or some kind of, stupid thing like that. So I was like, go ahead and take this thing back and throw it in a dumpster because it's worthless. Well, if you get the higher tier, yeah. So I'm going to be right back where I was. So at the time, guess what? Comcast is doing the same promotion. It was like $50 if you do it through your bank or whatever for 5 years. So guess what I jumped on? Yeah, here we are. So I couldn't do a broadcast or podcast at all anyway. I would have been dead in the water. Unless you did it 8 in the morning when everybody was at work. So I said, yeah, it's worthless. I'm good. So that's where we're at. And, you can get like, it promises like 300 speed and all this other crap. And it's like, which is low. Don't get me wrong. But it's more than adequate for streaming like this. More than adequate. Now, if you're gaming, yeah, that's useless because you'll have lag and everything else. But as far as this works perfect. And I get about almost 400 out of this. So I'm not complaining. I just didn't see I had like a 1 gig and it was working pretty well. But I'm like, I don't need that kind of speed. And it's costing me $110 a month. I'm like, I can cut that in half. So that's why I went to T-Mobile to begin with. And it's worthless. Piece of shit. Yeah. It's always fun. Let me do this here on this computer here. Whoop. Okay. There we go. Let me see. I gotta find out where this thing was at. Here we go. Mr. Happy Stacker 69, thank you very much. I appreciate you. You said, love your channel, bro. I appreciate you. That's awesome. Like I said, we're going to start getting in here and doing it. I think I'd rather do, what would you guys prefer, videos or just live? I think I already know the answer to this. But would you prefer the podcast and we can actually do, actual videos on that? In other words, I can enhance it and still do a video, which I will do if you guys want me to. Because I've got one already prepared to actually make a video. So, yeah. I could do that. Try the new Horizon, Chris. I live very rural. Okay, Susie. Okay, I got you. Well, like I said, I mean, I'd rather be hard-lined in, and you don't have to worry about it. Now, don't get me wrong. I was like, yeah, everybody's got that. Because last time we had like this deratio, right? It was crazy. It knocked the cell towers out. So it was useless. I had Comcast, and of course, I had an internet phone. I had Magic Jack, which is like, I forget what it was. At the time, it was like $99 a year. And I always had the landline. No, I don't have it now, but I did. And what's funny about it is like, yesterday, guess what? Comcast goes out. I'm like, fantastic. So I was like, oh, you can't win no matter what. But it was off for like a couple hours back on. And I don't care. I got plenty of entertainment to watch. So I didn't care. Eric, you said you could cater to the Nighthawks, people who have insomnia. Yeah, that's true. You could do that. Or tier 1. So if you're in the lower tier, you go, yeah, you get bottom of the barrel. I went, oh, so it's completely useless. I can't even stream music on it. I don't care about video. I try to stream like my XM or whatever on it. Worthless. I said, just take this piece of shit back. It's a paperweight. Whatever works for you, Chris. Lives are fun too. Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking because, like I said, everybody can jump in here and be able to talk with each other and everything else. So, I think it's pretty wild. We can do that. So we probably will do that. All right, let me see here. This one I like a lot because this photo here is wild. This to me, and I've said this before, this looked like it used to be a roadway through here. Like this is a pile of structure. And you can see where it goes, like it almost goes like between these. At least it looks like it has that look to it. But check these rocks out. This is crazy. Up here. And if you look really carefully, you can see these other shapes and what looks like frames of things. And here, and plus this big old piece right here at the top. I've got another picture of it, but I just don't have it handy at the moment. Middle of the photo right here, you can see what it looks like framework. What they do is they have this rock mimicking software, and they can literally make anything disappear to a certain degree. But if you know how to bring it out, you can bring it out. This stuff is structural. You know, you don't know if it's rebar or something else. I'm not sure. But some of this stuff here is absolutely crazy, the stuff you see in here. And the back side of this here. These pieces in the back here. Let me see here. Just let her know here. But, oops. Okay. Now I'm going to play you guys something. This is interesting. You'll like this. I had two of these. Let me see. Let me shut her off because she's going to start sounding in the background here. Hold on. Okay. All right. So I've got these two Alexas. One's the first gen, and the other one's the second gen. So I decided to ask these things. See if I can find it here. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring this up because I thought this was wild. But this picture here alone just is like, it screams structural. Even in the background here. Look at the way this in the back is. Like it has this. Somebody can say, oh, that's erosion. I'm not so sure about all that. Look at this stuff. It looks like parts to me. Yep, you guys were saying the same thing. Definitely a debris field. Looks like a graveyard of metal junk. It's nearly 2 in the morning in the UK. Gotta go. See you all the next time. Yeah, Steve, like I said, we're going to try to get in there a little bit earlier on Wednesday, which is still late, I know, for you. But I'm going to try to jump in there around 5:30ish. So check with me on Wednesday. I'm going to see if I can jump in there. I'll let you folks know. I'll do just a quick video and let you guys know, whether I'm going to be on or not. So, but good to have you in there, Steve. And, hopefully, like I said, you can join us on Wednesday. Yeah, they're getting crazy over there. Eric, what do you think? Maybe they had a house wrecking party on Mars. Come to the planet and trash stuff place. Well, I mean, yeah, but anyway, there's many, many areas I've seen on Mars that are like this. That's what's crazy. But now let me bring this up to you guys. This is cool. Let me turn this up here. Now listen. Ooh, nice echo. Now listen to this. When I first ask her, she goes off. Literally just shuts down. So I ask her again, because at first I was going to ask her a different question. You'll hear my hesitation in there. But I ask her, she shuts off. Then I ask her again, was there any life on Mars? Watch this. Now, what's crazy about that, and I'm going to let you listen to the other one. What was really crazy about that was that when I tried to ask her again, it's almost like they just went, cross that thing out again, meaning that question, just get rid of it. I try to ask her again. They've never been to Mars, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, okay. But now I asked the first gen. I want to go ahead and move this over. I want to start this back over. I want to let you listen to this. Now, this is the first gen I asked, and I asked the same question, except she answers right away. Richard Orm, that sounded like it said. What? So 1977 saying, and again, I try to ask these, and it automatically strikes these questions, I guess, from, um, so how do you not hear that? You guys couldn't hear that? Let me see. See if I can do it again. I think you guys are right. I think you guys are right. I don't think there's any sound. Why is that? That's crazy. I can hear it through the headphones. All right. If I have to, I'll get it to play. Let me see. Why is that? That's crazy. I can hear it through the headphones. All right. If I have to, I'll get it to play. Interesting. Anyway, I asked her, I said, when was, this is great. I said, Alexa, when did man first step on Mars? She said, back in 20, was it? Let me see here. Hold on. See if I can get this here. See if she'll do, probably not going to do it anyway. But she, it said Richard Orm set foot on it in 2015. I'm like, what? It's like orb or orb. I'm like, what? So let me see if I can make sure that's correct. In 2015, Richard Orb um, set foot on Mars. That's the first generation one. The second generation one, she says in 1977, men, for the first time, people set foot on Mars. Funny thing about this one is she literally shuts down. You can see her shut down. Watch. Now, you can't hear the audio, and I don't know why, because I'm going through the phone connected to the computer. But anyway, I ask her that question. She shuts off. I then ask her the question again, and she says, I mean, I could disconnect it and then let you hear it through, let me see here. Okay. Let's see if she'll do it through here. Alexa, when did man set foot on Mars? She goes off. Alexa, when did man set foot on Mars?
In 1977, people for the first time landed on Mars.
I'll let you hear it again. Alexa, when did man set foot on Mars? That's when she went off. I ask her the same question again.
Alexa, when did man set foot on Mars?
In 1977, people for the first time landed on Mars.
Now, to me, that's crazy. That's crazy. And then again, I try to ask her after that. Man has never been there. And here's the other
Alexa, when did man set foot on Mars?
In 2015, Richard Orme became the first human to set foot on Mars.
So you go, okay, well, it's kind of conflicting. One says 1977, the other one says 2015. However, they both say it. And again, it's almost like it got struck from the database and completely shut it off. I'm like, why the hell? That makes no freaking sense to me. But whatever the case is, you try to ask her again, they'll say nobody's ever set foot on it. So, but they answered the question. Of course, the other one, the second generation or third generation, it literally hesitated, shut off, and then when I asked it again, which I'm surprised it even answered the question, because I would have thought it just struck it right there. But it still answered the question. Thought that was pretty wild. Breakaway civilization. Yep. Yeah, Eric said Richard Orme, I think. Jerry Lehaney said the Nazis went there first. Now, you know what? It would not surprise me. Here's the thing, and I've said this before. If you can go to the moon, we don't know if this is a trial error. In other words, they went to the moon. Obviously, they landed on it. They found all kinds of crazy stuff on there. And at the same time, keep in mind, we can bring this up too. This is the missions. And that was that, this goes back to, let me see when the latest one was. I think it was, that's 2020 there. You know, obviously we still got Curiosity. We still have Perseverance. Let me see. That was this is what's crazy, right? They were trying to go to the moon in 1960, but you can see it right here. Mars 1M, I guess it's number 1, and Mars number 2, October 10th, October 14th, 1960, both destroyed during launch. So they didn't even get off the ground, but they were trying to get there. That's the whole point. Then you get this, you got the Zond 2, all of these explorations, 1962, 1964. Of course, they were trying, did not, and of course, it failed, broke up in Earth orbit, radio failure en route, stranded in Earth orbit, blah, 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 right? 1964, payload fairing failed to open, first flyby and picture returned. Mariner, this was 6 and 7, because it's showing right here 1 and 2, then it shows how many missions, right? 6 and 7, it says Mariner 3, Mariner 4, November 5th, November 28th, 1964. Why the rush to keep going there? Why all these missions? Because they know it's the next planet over. It probably harbored life. And remember back in the day, they said, well, there's canals or canales at the time that they were on the moon. So now they're curious and they want to go so bad. It wasn't to say, well, let's see if we can find some building blocks of life. That may be now because they want to try to get, people on Mars, well, at least for the first time. They want them to do this. They want to go there. So they're obviously making sure maybe they can, make energy while they're there. Is it possible they can, grow stuff there, which they can. They have actually taken the soil, and this is from the Viking 1 lander, by the way, or the second one of the two. When they dug up the soil and analyzed the soil, they got the information back here on Earth. They said, okay, here's the composition of the soil. They mixed it with some volcanic ash, and guess what? It would grow better over on Mars than it would grow here. You can look this stuff up. It's true. So we can actually do it. We can actually, plant stuff and everything else. And there is a sporadic magnetic field around Mars. It's not without. There's areas that does not have, any kind of magnetic field. So guess what? That's not where you live. You live where there is some. Makes sense, right? And then you build in that area. You can have food. You can grow food. You can do all kinds of stuff. Now, I'm not saying you can let's just run around in shorts and everything else. I don't know if that's going to be the case. I think they're not telling us the full, what's really going on with that atmosphere. I believe you can breathe there. It's like being up on a real high elevation here on Earth. And obviously you got to be wary of the radiation because obviously you can get killed with so much radiation. But to me, it's just it blows my mind how they're like, no, There's nothing there. The wild emissions. What's going on here? Mars Observer, September, it says lost communications near Mars. It doesn't mean it didn't take pictures, and it doesn't mean it didn't, they probably, most of these took a lot of pictures, right? Global Surveyor, which did take, orbited and returned data. But I mean, the list goes on. Mars Pathfinder, 1996. Keep in mind, I think it had the Soviet Union, and a lot of people don't know this, because we had the Sojourner in 97. We had the Spirit and Opportunity in 2004. You've got 2012, you had the Curiosity rover, and then, of course, 2020, you had Perseverance. But they also had what they call a prop, as PR and then OP, I think it was. How did it go again? Let me see. I can look this up for you folks. Watch this. Let me see here. Let's put Soviet mission. Okay, that was there. Okay. Let me put. Oh. Let's put it this way. Let me see. I don't know if that's going to work here. Let's see. Yeah. So let me see here. I got the screen off here purposely. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. It was the Prop M, they called it, or the PO. It's like a smaller letter K, but they call it, here you can see this. The Prop M rover was a small 4.5 kilogram mobile robot carried by the Soviet Mars 3 lander, which touched down on the Martian surface on December 2nd, 1971. Okay, designed as the first robotic rover for another planet, it was meant to move across the soil on two small struts while attached to a 15 meter umbilical cable. Okay, now if we look at the images, you can see this thing. It's basically like a little tiny robot. You can see it right here on the right. And it had these, like the toys they had back in the 80s, right? See this little like bar in the front of it. Let's see if it'll go to the side or if it's just going to give me crap. Okay, so you can see it right here. Once it hit something like a rock or something like that, it would literally back up. These things, it literally walked like this. It's like it just stepped. It literally walked and it would just back up and then go forward. So it would maneuver around rocks and stuff like that. So this was the very first craft, or rover, if you will. And of course, it was tethered to the, like I said, to the lander. And there you go. So there was more than one. They're not, a lot of the mainstream doesn't know that, but there's more. These people have been going there for freaking years. I mean, it's crazy. Do this. And that's what it's called. The PR, it's like Prop M. And it was actually pretty wild. And you can show it right here. It's actually, let me see. You can see the way it walks. And then these are walking together. But if it hit a rock, it would literally go backwards and walk and go around the object. So it's pretty wild. So a lot of people do not have, knowledge of this. But this is what I'm saying. If they've been doing this all this time, what are they hoping to find? It's like, they're trying to take samples, they're trying to do this, they knew something's up there, and that's why there's so many missions to this planet. Common sense. Snuffy McGruff, just another Manic Monday. Oh, yeah. Jerry Lehane, you said super soldiers had bases on Mars for decades, and millions of people live on Mars, cities underground, especially focused around base of Olympus Mons, which I have done videos on Olympus Mons, and it's not just a regular mountain. There's no way in hell. And it's supposed to be the largest volcano in the solar system. It's more than that. And I agree there. John Whitberg, I guess it was, YouTube. Yeah, I mean, but there's so much going on in these. these missions to Mars and everything else. Just crazy. But you can see, I mean, yeah, I'm trying to see if they had the actual photo of the craft itself. That's Mars 1. Hold on. See, this is the Mars 3 lander right here. And you can see that. And but that's basically what it looked like. And you can see I don't know if you can see it here. Let's see. Zoom. Whoop, don't care. This was the Prop M, the little rover. And what it does, this here would come down like a ladder. You can see the actual bracketing. It literally come down, fold down like a drawbridge almost kind of thing, and then it would step out. You can see like it looks like a ladder. It would just step out, and then this thing would come off that and start walking. So it was pretty wild. It was pretty cool. But this is back in, there you go, 1971. So these people were trying to get this so badly. For what reason? It's a dead planet, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I get the research thing. Of course, that makes sense. But some of it does not. And again, we're going back to all of these missions, 2020 right here. They had Hope that was going back in 2020 as well. And of course, look at the countries that are going. You got Japan. You got all of these. I mean, you got the Maven spacecraft. There's so many missions. There's so many orbiters now, at least 4 or 5 at least of ours. Mars Science Laboratory, which is the Curiosity rover. The MSL. You see it right there. It was November 26th, 2011. It was going to Mars, and then it was 2012, of course, when it landed. Stranded in orbit, Earth orbit. That one never got anywhere. The Phoenix. I mean, the list goes on, folks. I mean, come on. Let me see. Third Eye Open. Yep, you said, yep, I remember the original answer. They're taking over. Gene, I went there first. See, I met Andrew, Jerry. I met him down there. I'm on the fence about that actually being real. Because I remember there was William Whitecrow was supposed to have gone there. He was an actual soldier there or something. I'm not sure if I buy all that, but I'm not saying I don't buy any of it, because here's the thing. You'd have to get more and more and get more information about that. Because I know they said that they were, like, they'd come out of the elevator. Remember they said they were going to this building, and I forget where it was at. Was it New York? I forget where it was at. But you go into this elevator, and you go into it, and you're thinking, oh, it's just another regular elevator. It would open up, and suddenly you're on Mars. It's like a transporter type thing. And once you got there was military there. So you got out into a building, and the way they described it was that once you walked out, there was another set of doors, and there's military standing all over the place, and they got these creatures that would literally eat you, almost like a dinosaur thing. At least that's the way they explained it. I don't know if that was actually like dinosaurs, but it was similar to those things that would basically eat you. So I don't know if I buy all that, right? Well, it's raining like crazy out right now. Jerry, he said the portals from Montauk, the Montauk. Yeah, I remember that. Could have. 999 Drive, Los Angeles. Jump rooms. Okay, that's what it was. The jump rooms, and I remember the jump room, but as far as the where it was located. Slim Bim 77, welcome aboard. Good to have you in there. He said 1977. That sounds familiar. Wasn't there a lady that worked for NASA claiming exactly this? I think so. And I don't remember what her name was. I'm going to think of it now. I think her name was O'Hare, I think it was her last name. Linda, well, no, it wasn't Linda. What was her name? Let me see. Renevo, what's happening? Good to see you in there, man. 3171. What's happening? Good to see you in there, man. Acosta Vampa says adorable bot. Yeah, they were actually pretty. Listen, and it makes sense. They're trying to get the smallest payload. They're trying to get everything up there. It makes sense to make. And basically, it's a toy compared to what we sent up there, within an X amount of 10 to 20 years ago. But nonetheless, small lander, small little robot going out there, trying to analyzing the soil a little bit. I've got photos on there about that, which 100%. Well, here's one of the Sojourner. Let me do this. This is the original photo. Everybody was saying, hey, look, there's a little Martian right there, right in front of the. It's like he's pinned between the rock and the actual rover. I guess you could say that because there's like two little legs and it looks like an arm. It looks like he's trying to force his way. Leg, stop, kind of. Now, I'm not saying that's what it is, but it just looks funny when you see it. It actually does look like it. Somebody's like, yeah, I swear to God. But I was looking at this here. Look at this object right here in the middle of the screen. Now, I always, my thing is there was a civilization much like us here on Earth. And this is going to sound wild. But let's say, for argument's sake, once these landers landed like in 1976, you got all these landers landing or taking pictures in the orbit, stuff like that. You got the orbiters, you got the landers. They're all taking these photos of Mars. Is it possible that once we get the photos back, we started to make things like they did? Like, we could just say like the modern, well, maybe not so much the modern, but the automobile. Now, obviously, we looked at the very first ones that came out like early 1800s or late 1800s. You got Model A's, you got all of these weird things. But we had electric cars even back in, 1893, 1894? And of course, they squashed those because oil companies not going to make anything on that. So we had those. But is it possible that that could have happened? Well, if you look right here, you can see the straight line going across here. There's several straight lines, but you really can't see them too well. But this caught me off guard. This looks like one of these, I'm going to say, it looks like the top of like an old bus, right? See that right there? And again, you got these straight pieces here. Almost looks like structures in the background, but there's more than one. There's this, and there's another one right behind it. You can see something flat right here. And I'm like, I wonder what that would look like if I enhanced that. Well, we did. So this is what I come up with right here. There's the lines right there. You got this one right here. Okay. And of course, we took the goofy color off of it. But you can see that. Now, I'm going to show you this right here. You don't really see this one too much, but this one you do. And you can see these other lines in the background right here, these two top lines. Look at those. And this one right here. Now, there's several of these, whatever these are, in a row. And of course, we got the little, what looks like a little Martian right there. And you go, if that's true at all, well, think about it. Picture this little dude over here in one of these. If this is in fact true, right? It almost fit like the same size, it makes sense, And here we go again. Here's the original. You can see that right here, and you got the straight lines here above this. But they put this, again, this manipulation over everything, just try to block everything out, every detail they can possibly find. But you can see that. I say that's my opinion, that when they had landers on there and everything else, that's what they were doing. 100%. If that's true, again, in my opinion, if they did that and they said, wow, there's a civilization down here, blah, 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 and they seen these, what look like these vehicles or whatever, is it possible we could have copied their design? I'm just saying, as silly as that may sound. JCW 408, welcome aboard. You said 5 years before the Viking mission. Mm-hmm. Yep. Because, if you think about it, 1976, right? Slim Bim, you said, but the truth is also that if Germany wouldn't have lost the war, it would be most likely a German flag on the moon now. And you may be right, 100%. Because keep in mind, between the Soviet Union, us, you got a lot of countries that probably would be up there already. I think the Soviet Union would have been probably the first one up there. But like I said, they sent their rover up there. When we were doing our missions, they sent the Lunicod up there. Non-manned. But this thing traveled, no BS, guys. This thing traveled like, I think, 1.25 miles. It was outrageous. It was crazy. So it doesn't surprise me that they found a lot more on the moon than what they're letting on. Gene, you said Tartarian civilization probably sent astronauts to Mars. Now they are looking for survivors. Well, that, or they've been living there all this time, and of course they're going up there now. We're only seeing what we're allowed to see. So in other words, let's say for argument's sake, every time they sent up a mission, it wasn't just a rover. Well, the supplies up there too. Maybe they can grow their food up there, like I was just talking about earlier. So they're okay with the food. And they can make, and keep in mind, they got this carbon to oxygen machines now that can actually do this. They did it on a very small scale. I believe it was on the Curiosity. It might have been, yeah, I think it was on the Curiosity they tried it. And they converted, carbon into oxygen. So, if you do it a lot bigger scale, it obviously can attach it to a building and you're good to go. But again, I think there's more to it than that. I think there's actually breathable oxygen. And they say the closer to the ground, the more chance of that. And there's definitely water on Mars, regular H2O, excuse me, regular H2O. So 100%, they can filter that, so on and so forth. They say, like most, they say, oh, it's just brine. It's not just brine. There's more to it than that. There's actually regular H2O. Jerry said, but the air that they breathe was scary thin. And you may be right. I think, to me, it's just like, if they have to have a little bit extra oxygen, as a breathing apparatus, so be it. But I think they can function no problem at all. And if they can convert the atmosphere into pure oxygen for themselves, then they can live there almost indefinitely. So, and you got solar, so they can run everything on solar, or they could just do it like they did back in the day. They basically had a small nuclear generator. They had one on one of those on the moon back in the 1960s, early 70s. So they had that then. So you can bring a power plant with you and it'll last for X amount of time. I appreciate that, Renee. You said, oh, good. So cool. You are here. Now, big respect. Well, I appreciate that. Jerry, you said, I remote viewed the landing scene 1987, 10 years before July 4th, 1997, and drew the hills on the horizon, sent the NASA JPL through Roddenberry. Interesting. Mars people 6 inches tall, mostly skinny. See, I don't know. I think there's a combination of that. Judging on what I've seen, I'm going to show you something too. And this is probably I'll listen, it's got to be the most important photo ever of Mars. And I don't care what anybody says. I've showed this more than one video and it looks like a Martian city. And I'm going to show you folks, and I'm going to tell you a little story about this. So the wife and I decided to go to Walmart, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to have this photo made. I'm going to have it printed out. I'll get maybe like an 8x10 or something like that, right? So I get the thing. The guy says, okay, no problem. So he prints it out. I said, you got a frame for that? He goes, so we went back, and I think it was like 5-10 minutes later. He said, what, for these wheel marks? I kind of looked at him like, wheel marks? What are you talking about? He goes, yeah, the photo you got here. I said, that's actually 3/4 of a mile off the Martian surface. He looked at me like, what the I mean, literally, let me show you. And you guys have seen this. You've been following me, so you guys seen this. This is 3/4 of a mile off the Martian surface. Okay? So 110% there's been life on this planet. Just like you and I. Now, don't get me wrong. I see a lot of things that look like they built a lot into stone. I got dust on that. Either built into stone or into mountains. And that may be because, think about it, if you build something out of stone, I know first thing people think is, oh, Flintstones. When you build it out of stone, you're literally sheltered from any kind of radiation. Now, I don't think that was the case back in the day. I think it had a full, atmosphere, just like they were saying, I think it was like 3/4 water on that planet, so on and so forth. And you can see what looks like a lot of destruction when you see this photo. It's crazy, the photo, when you look at it. Because what they did was, and they did this on Mars, on the moon, where anything that looked like a structure, anything that wasn't natural. Now, back in the day, they used to do it manually. They put like white over an object. Like, let's say you see a structure standing there, they'll put like white over it so it screws with your eyes. You don't look underneath it. You just see the top, that white piece. Well, they did the same thing here, all over the photo. But when you zoom into it, like this to me looks like there's some weird little UFO just laying right here. Okay. You got all of these objects right here. You have what looks like a sphere right here. I'm going to put it in the middle of the screen, right there. And what looks like towers standing up. Another tower here. See that? I call this the ramp, this thing right here. I'm going to put it in the middle of the photo, right there. Oops. It's got a flat ground right here. You can see it. But this piece goes right up like this, like a ramp. Now, I'm not sure what that really is, to be honest with you. But now, take a look at this. A lot smaller version of that. What looks like this stretched out triangular piece right here. And it looks like it has the same pieces coming off it. Looks like 3. I see definite 2. 1, 2 going up in the air. And you can see this piece is like a triangular piece. But there's 1, 2, and maybe a third of those sticking right out. Kind of like this. This much larger version, only you're seeing it smaller over there. But look at these structures here. And that's just a small piece of it, folks. But you can see where I try to bring down all of the brightness, this blotchy crap right here. This stuff was it was like hard to bring out because it wasn't, let me see if I can find it. This is the first one. This was from UFO Evidence 1, I think it was, that did this originally. Now, I've done this before where now every photo you see, they try to do a different manipulation. Let me see if I can find this other one. This is the original. Nothing enhanced. And you can see this right here. What looks like this small, I call it a UFO. It looks like a disc kind of thing just laying down, kind of cocked in this, what looks like a pit type thing. But you can see these. Pretty darn good, too. Now, to me, that's not natural. Look at this area right here. This is not natural. It look like structures, and they go down into this area. Robert C., what's going on? He said, yes, I made it. Let me see. Lunicod had 8 wheels, heavy duty. Yep, absolutely. And there's more than one, by the way, the Lunicods. But what's crazy about it is the Lunicod, like I said, that did a lot of visual, and it was supposed to get soil as well, because it had it was doing a soil analysis. But 8 wheels, electric drive. This thing went 1.25 miles, I believe it was. I'm going, what the hell are you looking for 1.25 miles? Don't get me wrong. Can things change, like soil change? I'm sure it can. But I don't think it's going to be that drastic. I think they wanted to go up there because they're going, maybe they got word that, oh, wait a minute. They seen something on the moon we'd like to see, but we don't want to take the chance, or we don't have the capabilities of going to the moon with men, meaning a manned mission. Why don't we at least send something up there that can take pictures and send them back? We don't have to be there. But if that's true, and the Americans are going up there, they're going to get all kinds of, like samples of maybe of the metals of something or of these structures, whatever it may be, right? So, you have to stop and think about that. It's like, they were doing the next best thing, and it makes sense to do that. So we broke down the haze and got into this photo and got it much, much better as far as I'm concerned. But you can see all the white they try to put over this to really hide what's really here. Like it's highlighted on the very tips of these things to try to hide what's really in these photos. But to me, this is not natural. But this is 3/4 of a mile off the surface. What's going on, Zan? 3119. Good to see you in there, man. Oh, okay. I got you there. Snuffy McGraw, I got you. He said, same long time follower, first time live stream. Okay, cool. Glad you could be here, man. Slim Bim, he said, this photo is such a dead giveaway. There is so much to discover, and they're mainly proof. Yeah, I mean, come on. Like I said, this is some kind of weird structure. I can't make out what that is, but you can see these things the way they're designed. This is not something that's, you know, what was it to? I'm trying to remember here. I was looking this up. Roughly what is it, like roughly 3,000 feet? If you're up about 3/4 of a mile. I forget what it is. It's like either 2,900 feet, I'm sorry. But just weird things in these photos, man. Look at this. What is that? Oh, the train's going by. You can hear the vibration. Turn it down a little bit. Yeah, it's an actual train going by. Okay. I hate when that happens, but we'll just turn that down a little bit. It won't be too bad. But anyway, to me, that's just blows my mind. Now, we can go back to, this is the other one. If you look at these here, now again, depending on the photo, they will manipulate it a different way. So some things you won't see, some things you will. Looks like in between these, it looks like there's structures all the way along this. I think I have another photo here. Let me see if I can find this. Yeah, this is where I was trying to show people where you can see where they blotched it out. Look at the blurring in these areas. And I've done a video on this. You can see like the white behind this right here. See it? There's white objects in between here, but they did a great job of filtering them out. So when you go back to the one I just showed you, the more clear photo of a different angle, you can see what looks like almost like trees, but you don't know if that's manipulation to block out what you're seeing here. That's the key, man. It's just, it's mind blowing. Look at this right here, this area right here in the middle. It looks like structures right here. That's just crazy. Let me see if I can bring this down. Let me see what the other one is here. Yeah, it's going to be too pixelated, but you can see it here. Those are structures. Yeah, Jean does a good job. You know, he does a good job in it. The only problem he started using AI. The problem with AI is it can smooth over surfaces, and he's not the only one doing this. There's a lot of people using AI in their photos. I'd rather not. I'd rather use raw photos because I want to see the real details. I don't want anything. I've tried it before where you can actually use it, but the problem with it is, let's say something's a 90-degree angle. Sometimes it'll smooth it out. I don't want it to distort what it really is. I want it to be what it really is. Jean does a fantastic job. You know, I've had him on my podcast. Great guy. Wouldn't say anything bad about him. The only thing I don't like, and I've seen other people doing it, like I said, using AI. That's one thing I won't do. I've tried it, and it does work to a certain extent. The problem with it is what happens if, and I've seen this happen, and not in his, but there's other people who have done it, where you've got an object, and I've done it myself. I had an object, and you can see it's something that was intelligently made, but then when you try to use it, and there's different ways of using this AI, when you do use it, it can make it almost look like a rock. You're going, okay, that's not what I was wanted to do. I want to see it in its raw form so I can show it to people. Whether it's half covered up or not, you want it to be raw as possible. So I don't agree with the AI thing. Like I said, Jean does a great job. And I've always tried to promote him on my channel. Like, yeah, go check out his channel. He does fantastic work because he finds some crazy stuff in his satellites photos. But I don't think anybody has done it yet, has come close to this here. Now, this was somebody had done this right here. Aliens in Our Backyard. They have done a different angle of this. And that's what they come up with, or that's what it showed, because you can literally go to, it's like Google Earth, and I don't even know if they still even have Google Earth, but they had Google Earth, and what you can do is there's two drop-down boxes. When you hit the drop-down box, it says Moon and Mars, and once you do that, you can go to the other one here, and then simply just change the angle. So it's right where it needs to be, and you can see this here. So there's not any photo I've ever seen that looks like this. And I wasn't the one to come up with that. Again, that was UFO. The hell did I say it was earlier? Oh, shit. Anyway, he's the one to come up with this first. And this was about 2010, I think it was. So we're talking 15, 16 years later, because I don't know if it was near the end of the year, but UFO Evidence 1. He's the one to come up, not this picture here, but this one. And you can see where he's labeled this. I don't take credit for any of this, but I enhance it because you can see the stuff in the background. You can see that what looks like that ramp thing right there. Right here, you can see this other one here. That's that triangular piece right there. This piece is sticking up. You can barely see it, but it is in fact there. These items are in fact in this photo. But what they do is they try to block out a lot of it going up this way. And you can see that. But they try to take it out. See that? This is Barzoom. But, by the way, that may be a t-shirt soon. That's pretty wild. I might have that made. If anybody wants it, let me know. I could probably put the digital, if you want the picture or whatever, I can put it up on like a eBay type thing or whatever. But anyway, this is cool because, again, I've never seen another photo like this. And this, to me, 100%, I don't care what anybody says, this is proof that there was a civilization on Mars. Robert C. said, I've been watching John Ward, but he doesn't have the same energy you have, and it's just not as good, but still good. I mean, he does great work. I've seen some things, and I even talked to him about it. I said, listen, and you know how like he finds these rocks and it has like these other 4 rocks like in a square area or some kind, just weird stuff, man. That's not natural. He shows a lot of good stuff. I like the stuff that Jean pulls out. But again, I'm just not a fan of that AI thing. It's just, again, raw photo. We want as raw as possible, meaning you can enhance it, but you don't want to change the shape of anything. You want it to be as raw as possible. Jerry, you said, AI loves to lie. So many images, it's a trap. In images, rather. I'm not sure, Snuffy. You said, what was the name of the Montreal chap who passed away who covered Moon and Mars? I don't know about, I'm not sure about Mars, if they did both. Yes, Jerry, I appreciate that. He said, like, share, subscribe, support. Yes, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And I always tell people, go look to see if you subscribe. You might say, yeah, I already have. Look again. Because sometimes it'll unsubscribe you, and then when you click on it, then hit the, tick the boxes for all, like notifications, so on and so forth. Yeah, Central Scrutinizer. Good to have you in there. You said, I notice Google AI is wrong or lies 100% of the time. I wouldn't say it lies most of the time because I've looked up some things just for the heck of it. I already knew the answer to it, and it was pretty spot on. But anything you get, let's say you ask it a certain question, and it gives you an answer. Do some more research, just to be on the safe side, right? Because you don't want to go, oh, yeah, I take everything it says, for, like it's biblical. Yeah, you don't want to do that. You definitely want to, if it comes up with something like really weird and you go, wow, that's pretty interesting, you don't just take it and say, okay, I'm going to run with it. Actually look it up to confirm what you think it is or it's saying it is, right? Metalhead, what's going on? Good to see you there, man. See, this is what I was just talking about. You said no notification. That's what I'm getting at. You got to make sure you make sure you're still subscribed and get that little drop-down box. Make sure it's ticked and says everything, meaning every notification, because sometimes you will not get them. Yeah, we're doing fine here, Metalhead. I hope you're doing well. Edwards Air Force Base, California here. Absolutely, brother. Good to have you in there. Yeah, I heard about Bruce. That was crazy. You know, when I first heard about it, I'm not going to lie to you guys. I was just like, oh, come on. What's going on now? You know what I mean? Like, it's just some other trick or whatever. So I go on there and I see everybody rest in peace. And I was, you got to be kidding me. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I was totally blown away. I literally felt like tightness in my chest. Like, what is going on right now? So, you know, and then I saw like people saying that something about his brother had was talking about it. So I went and listened to him, and the guy was completely distraught, and I totally get it. You know, so, you know, I just felt really bad. I was just like, you know, this guy was what, 48, 49 years old. He was a father. Now, don't get me wrong. He created a lot of problems for me and a lot of other channels, but that has nothing to do. If you just put that aside, you know, my condolences, you know, went out to him, you know, because I was just like, that's just crazy to me. Because even though he was a little rough around the edges as far as with me and other people, which is crazy. I won't get into all that. But the thing is, it's like, you know, I hated to hear that because it's still, at the end of the day, he's still a father. He's still young as far as I was concerned. And, you know, you hate to see that kind of thing happen. At the end of the day, he's a human being. So I felt bad. I was like, you got to be kidding me. So, yeah, I was blown away by it, to be honest with you. Zan, you said, I see electric lights everywhere. Well, again, a lot of these are highlights. Like they try to cover up any detail in these. That's why I try to bring it all down. But yeah, there's a lot of it. Slim Bim, he said, yeah, Chris, he had some issues. I mean, yeah, Chris had some issues with Bruce and was kind of suspicious. I'm not sure if it was suspicious. I know, and I can't say this for real. I don't know. But I mean, I know he lost some weight, so he was having some issues. But regardless of that, I hated to see it happen. Some people would probably think, oh, he's probably cheering it on. That's great. No. Totally opposite, brother. Again, I just felt bad. I was like, God, that sucks, man, because I'm thinking to myself, this guy was trying to show the best he could about the things he could see through a telescope, doing a great job as far as I'm concerned. The only thing I didn't like about it, and I said this more than once, is that unless everybody here has a telescope, it's hard to confirm whether that's real or not. I'm not saying he's faking it, but how do you know? I think most of it was real, and you've seen some crazy stuff on the moon. And I was like, that's awesome. So, and then I had him on a podcast and everything. Of course, everything kind of went haywire after that, but regardless of that, you know what I mean? I don't care about that. That's online, and a human being's a different story. That's the way I look at it. And like I said, I just felt like a heaviness in my chest when I seen that. I was like, no way. There's no way this is real. And like I said, I seen his brother, and I just literally, I felt just what, because, you know, like I said, if you have the knack of feeling other people's feelings, you know, just like I was kind of torn up inside too, because I was like, that's crazy to me. Because like I said, at his age and being a dad and everything else, I'm a dad, you know what I mean? So I feel it, you know? If you're like an empath, you'll feel that kind of shit, you know? Let me see. Good upon us. He said, hi, Chris. It's like a plan. Yeah, good to see you in there, man. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the grand plan. But like I said, going back to this here, like I said, the moon, Mars, there's no doubt in my mind. Yeah, we weren't the only ones in this solar system, and I believe there's still something here. And this is what blows my mind. When you look at this stuff, you literally kind of like laugh because everybody, and like I said, I've watched a lot of people. I watched Joe Rogan, a big fan of his. But I'm going, why is everybody still stuck on the UFO and UAP thing? Think about it. It's like a big thing. Everybody's riding that coattail, making all kinds of money. I'm going, I still have not seen a clear photo yet of the military. You know, like they're saying, oh, yeah, the Pentagon did this. Everything's infrared, night vision, dark. I mean, it's just wild, right? Show me a true one off the coast or off their bow or stern of their ship, daylight, actual UFO. Have anybody seen any of those yet? Because I haven't. So, get a sip of this. So, to me, I'm going, okay. I've said this before. If you look at the old photos, you guys can Google this. Look at like 1940s photos of a UFO. and do every decade, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, you can literally see the spacecraft getting better and better. So is it somewhere else, otherworldly, or is it ours? And now I'm not saying that we're not being visited. I believe we are. But I believe that stuff, some of these UFOs, are definitely ours. Everybody's saying like might be like Skunk Works is doing that. Other companies have built them, stuff like that. And here's the thing. Let's say you make a power plant, brand new engine for a car. You can put it in a piece of junk, just to, as long as you know this new engine you built can drive the vehicle, right? So you might have had like anti-gravitics, because they said they've been messing around with anti-gravitics since the 30s and 40s, which is crazy to me. But if they were doing that back then that makes sense. You go, okay. So they just built some clunky thing because they really didn't have the technology to build something smooth and everything else, at least because they probably just put it together real quick, and it looks like a saucer type. So, and then over the decades, it got better, smoother. Just look, and now we have what looks like a Tic Tacs and all this other stuff. It's just a lot more modern and high tech. So is it ours or otherworldly? What do you guys think? I'm just curious what you folks think. Yeah, Metalhead, I think you have been. You've been sub for 10 years. Absolutely. Zan, you said that the Turkey UFO with the occupants was crazy. Oh, you're talking about the one that looks like it's like almost like a boomerang type thing, I think. And you can see the occupants right in the middle. Yeah, that was crazy. CJ COS or SAWS, I'm not sure if that's last name or what have you. I said to you, must be 4 years ago, in a hangout, they should ask you to give a briefing at a hearing. I'd love to. You know what I mean? What I think is crazy, like I said, they're all stuck in this UFO and UAP. I'm still going to call it a UFO because I think that's just stupid, but whatever. They're all hung up on that. Your money's not going into this, people. What's the big story is what you're seeing on the screen. That's where this money's going. They're making these trips back and forth. They might have already been landed there, living there, the whole 9 yards for X amount of years. We don't know that for sure. Just pure speculation, right? But when you see stuff like this, then they're aware. So they're going to try to get up there as fast as they can. It would not surprise me if they were there in 1977. And this other guy, or whatever his last name was in there in 2015. We don't know. I know if I seen that from a satellite, because this could be from the Maven, it could be, I forget which one this was taken from, one of the satellites, one of the orbiters, and this is just one of X amount of thousands probably taken of different areas, and we see that. It's kind of like what they're seeing on the moon. They're like, hey, man, I don't know about you, but we just looked up there. There's something on there. It's like square or rectangular. That's not natural lunar surface. Get up there now. So when they had the chance, they built, planned. They planned and then blueprinted and then built, and then there you go. Up to, Apollo 10, they were literally just orbiting around the moon to find out what the best landing spot is, probably taking pictures of these structures to find out where they could land. And Apollo 11 did land where they wanted to land. This photo over here always blew my mind because you can see these. Just look at the stuff in this background. I'm just going to leave it right here. Just look at this stuff. This one here is filtered. It's got the red filter, so it kind of brings out some shadowing a little bit better. No way is this natural. And you can see all the stuff. They try to put these lines and these weirdness in here to block out whatever they could. But you can see things here that look like they're connected, like these, like two structures on right here, right there. Things that look like they're off the ground. You got this one over here on the left-hand side. You can see a square structure, a rectangular structure inside of this so-called crater. There's no way. And they're all over the place. You can see it. There's no way this is natural. So when they're orbiting, you got the LRO, Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, taking photos of every inch of the moon. again, they're going to see something. Oh, wait a minute. Now, of course, they've seen this much earlier because obviously this is long before the Apollo missions. But they've seen something up there and said, hey, we need to get up there. Build it. Let's go. The Soviet Union probably got wind that they were going up there because they probably looked through the telescope and seen something that's not natural either. How do we get up there? Let's just get up there. Again, the big race, space race. And all they want to do is probably just get photos. All we need is photos to prove, what we're seeing is real. And that's all they had to do. Even if you couldn't get your hands on it, at least you were there and taking photos. Makes sense to me. Cali Slav, I guess, 96. She said, I am so fatigued over the UFO crap. Yeah, because I'm going to be honest with you, they wore the shit out of it. I mean, they really did. They killed it. And again, once it comes out, everybody's on the coattail to make money on it. And don't get me wrong, is it interesting? Absolutely. I have not seen a real photo yet. Has anyone else seen one? And I don't remember because I'm over there talking, and I don't know if you guys even said anything about it. Metalhead, you said it'll be 64 next week. Well, you're 4 years ahead of me. But, oh yeah. Nothing wrong with that. Let's see. Snuffy McGraw, you said 100% it is us, but it's also everywhere. Universe is not materialistic, I guess. It is self-repeating. Well, here's my thing. When they talk about how many stars that are out there, galaxies, so on and so forth, I mean, there's billions, right? Again, they always say there's no way with it, the only people on Earth or any life forms, no way. You'd have to be a fool to believe that to begin with. And again, this, and I said this before, our solar system was alive and kicking. And I mean on most planets. Oops, excuse me. I don't mean like, people say, well, you can't live on like Saturn or Jupiter or whatever. How do we know that? It's kind of like, you can live in like something that's got its own atmospheric conditions in it. Like you make it for yourself, and a planet that's, let's say, Venus. Oh, it's way too hot. Well, you can live on the other side of it or next to the polar caps where it's much cooler. You can live there or in the middle where you get that kind of Goldilocks zone where it's kind of in between. So you don't have to burn up on the planet. And here's the thing. How about underground? It's perfect. No radiation. Well, at least most of it's filtered out, depending on if you go way deep in there, nothing's going to bother you. And I believe this has happened on every planet, including Pluto. There was life in it because, again, we were a binary star system. We had two suns. So if one's on one end, you got heat coming from one end, heat from the other. These planets weren't all ice blocks. They just weren't. I mean, there was life everywhere. And I believe most of the planets in our solar system had life. And, and they've just it's like an old neighborhood and everybody vacated or they just simply died or whatever the case is. Or they went to another area where let's say they got technologically advanced enough to leave their planet. Like a lot of people think of, like I said, and I'm a big fan of this as far as the panspermia theory, where life came from Mars to here. Now, of course, they're talking about, micro, where explosion on Mars, you got ejecta, goes into space, and it ends up in like Antarctica here on Earth, and you got little microorganisms, and it started life here. I believe it's much more than that. I believe at one time, and I said this before, and again, purely speculative, that we might have been two planets alive at one time. And we were going back and forth. And then one of them just died off, and whoever could come back came to this planet, and that was it. Who knows? Again, purely speculative, but the thing is, it's like, when you stop and think about it, if it had the what we see on Mars, if it had what it had, it has a lot what we have here. You know what I mean? Look at the stuff on this left-hand side. This is just absolutely crazy to me. You can see multi-levels in height of some of these things. Look at all of these here in a 1, 2, 3, 4 in a row right here. All of these. All in the back here. This just, especially right here. This is crazy right here. All right here. What do you guys think of this photo? This is wild to me. Let me see. Well, here's the thing, too. I'm glad you asked this, Kurt Urbanus. He said that why black and white image is it infrared? Here's the funny part. If you go to this photo here, when you go into Photoshop, you can look it up and it'll say either black and white, grayscale, whatever. Most of these are actually color. Why are they black and white? That's the thing. When you see a lot of this whitish kind of looks like a fog over it, that's manipulation. And what they'll do is they'll put their own, like it's almost like a sheet over it, like they used to do back in the day. Use an acetate, and they'd cover up things they didn't want you to see, airbrush, and then once they overlay it and do all that, and then they take another photo and it blocks out everything they don't want you to see. Well, now if you do it digitally, you can put you can see these right now. It looks like a bunch of what? You can see right here, all that is blurring, but you can see how they're like trying to block out everything. It looks like compression artifacts, but they can actually make their own and just overlay it. Why? To take out any kind of, detail they don't want you to see. And you can see a lot of that was taken out. In the back here, I try to burn some of it. You can see it, but here's the thing. Look at it. And that's without getting it more enhanced. You can see these. You get rid of that fog crap over the top of it, but you can still see these lines in there because, again, you're not seeing the whole thing as they're trying to take out what they can. That's what it comes down to. Other areas down here. Check this one out. This is crazy here. I like this one here. It looks like a ledge right here. It looks like a structure sitting right on top of it. Actually, several structures. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, this is not lunar surface. Zane, you've been listening to Hancock. We're a species with amnesia. And that may very well be true. There's, the stuff that's been found in Antarctica, it shows it was an industrial area at one time. It was also like an Amazon jungle back in the day, thousands of years ago. So this is before the Ice Age. There's proof in the soil. So what are they hiding up in Antarctica now? Probably whatever was built back in the day, thousands of years ago. Again, they want you to believe, well, we were all cavemen at one time. Maybe some of them, yes. But a lot of them, I don't think that's the case at all. Some of these things, it's crazy. Rockstar 8970 Abel says crazy shite. Oh, yeah. Third Eye Open says the obfuscation is obvious to anyone who's ever worked with photo editing software. Oh, yeah, you can see this is completely overlaid over this. 100%, you're right. Metalhead, you said, I sometimes see what looks like giants could be pareidolia. Now, I don't know about, here's the thing, and don't get me wrong, it's a real thing, pareidolia, right? I think it's the worst made up word ever, but I think NASA's the one that came up with that. But regardless who did, it doesn't matter to me. What I find interesting is this is great. Let me see here. If I can, let me go back to this right here. You can actually, you can see people going like, oh my God, you can see the people right there. It's like, how are you seeing people? We can barely see structures. They're so tiny. So the people are going to be, and I'm going to be honest with you, this is when, I forget who said this earlier. I said that, it might have been you, Jerry, I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. But, He said they're like, 3 or 6 inches tall. And I beg to differ. Now, I'm not saying that they're not. It's kind of like here on Earth, we have pygmy people, right? A lot shorter than us, or the average person, and there's people that are taller. So you can have a large and a very variable range of height, right? So, but this, when you look at it, okay, X amount of thousands of feet off the ground, and then I can look at another photo and do the same thing. I can Google it, okay, about 3/4 of a mile off the ground, let's say New York or whatever, and they will look very similar to the structures here. So I think there's a lot of them, at least in this particular area, are about the same size as us. And if they were shorter, not by much. Now, I'm not saying that we don't know for sure, obviously, but to me, I just look at this and I go, to me, this, again, this is about equivalent to our structures that we'd see. But, again, going back to the moon here, when they seen these things through telescopes, get up there now. And that's pretty much what happened. UFO Paranormal, good to see you in there, man. He said, hey, Chris, I love what you do, what you expose, how Congress needs to view your stuff and if they want real answers. Well, Franco, you're amazing at your work. But so what I'm saying is what's crazy about this, and you're right about this, because again, they're wasting their time on all these UFOs like Elizondo and all these goofballs. Like, yeah, I got an insight and intel, and he may very well. But the problem with it is, why say it? It's like me saying, hey, guys, I got a secret for you. It's got to do with the moon. I've seen structures there. And let's say I never showed a photo, never showed any of that. I just said, I've been to a base there. Some of the stuff you've seen is outrageously ridiculous and something that would just completely blow your mind and scare you. And leave it at that. You're like, okay, you just got to leave a carrot dangling there? I mean, what's the deal here? Are you going to, are you going to tell the whole story? Or are you just making up stories just to stay relevant? That's what I think they're doing. Now, I'm not saying that they're not trying to expose all this and bring it out, but if you ever watched that, what was that movie, Disclosure? The movie that just came out, a year ago? I watched it in the very beginning, and I don't think I have it now, but it said, the people are telling the stories. And how did he say it? I'm probably not going to word it verbatim, but it did say that they're telling the truth up to the law. Now, think about what that says. In other words, they're being allowed to say only what they can say, and that's it, or else they're in trouble. So they're not telling the whole truth. So if there is real truth, it's going to take more to get it out. You know what I mean? Or it's just a bunch of crap and people just making money off of it. And there's nothing wrong with that if you're telling the truth, if you're trying to bring out the truth. And I'm okay with that. But I think a lot of it, people are, like I said, just riding the coattails, just trying to make money off of it. And they've done a great job, making the money off it, I guess. But to me, that's not the big story. The big story is what's really going on and where all this money is really going. It's to go here and get photos of stuff that was on a civilization that was on Mars and on the moon and on Pluto and every other place that they're trying to visit. It's just as simple as that. Deja Overtime, what's going on? You say, hello, my friend. Good to see you in there. Renee, he said, do you see that, Chris, bottom left corner photo, tall towers or buildings? Well, yeah, if you look closely, it gets even crazier. Well, you can see what looks like things on a ledge. See these right here? I think that's what you're referring to. And then you got these like circular areas, almost like a rectangular shape here. But again, they tried to fuzz it out and put all this white all over everything, so you can't really see it. Because keep in mind, this is the closest part of the photo. But then, the other one was kind of hazy. You really couldn't see too much detail. Right here. Although this is the raw photo from Google. So, but when you try to enhance it and bring contrast out and everything else, everything turns even whiter. So now you got to try to tone that down. But even this, like I said, this to me blows my mind. This looks like I said, it looks like a disc-shaped UFO type thing, just sitting kind of like cocked in a pit somewhere. And again, this is the most mind-boggling photo ever, as far as I'm concerned. I've never seen anything like this before in my life. And when I first seen it on this guy's channel, I was like, what in the hell? Not this one, like I said, but the other one here. And once you break all this down, you can see what looks like structures and everything else. And they're absolutely there. Susie said, preach, Chris. They see a lot of mumbo jumbo without ever saying anything. And it's true. How many times you heard, like, yeah, like I said, I focus on Elizondo because he's supposed to be like the one in the know. And yet he's talking about, I've seen things and it would blow your mind. Okay, why talk about it? What's the point? If you're not going to show us, the public, what you're trying to bring out, and yet nothing. Come on. I just smell crap. Renee, you said they're also in a low area, so maybe 1 to 2 kilometers deep, so 2 to 3, 4 kilometer tall building. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's so much in this photo that it's undeniable. It'd be one thing if it's a bunch of scribble, but you can see, like I said, how does nature do all of these right here? It's like they're all in a row, and you can see what looks like something on platforms, and then there's 1, 2, 3, and of course you got a lot of this black in here. You can't tell if that's actually natural forest or if it's something they put in there to try to hide a lot of the stuff. But yet you can see what looks like structures here and there. And again, all in this area right here in the center of you got what looks like this giant ball sphere type thing, and you can see a shadow under it. And you can see what looks like structures standing up right next to it. That to me is crazy. And it's all over the photo. I mean, there's something right here. It's like off the ground right here in the back. It's like literally off the ground. You can see what looks like a shadow under it. It's just weird stuff. All of the stuff you see right here, that is actually manipulation to trying to cover up certain things. But just look at some of the things here. You got squares. You got these. What you're seeing right here is tops of buildings. All right in here. See, like these round circles, you can see rectangular shapes. You can see, look at all in here. This area right in here. Yeah, this is 100% legit. And I believe that's what they're after. That's the big story. Heck with all of these stupid UFO stuff and everything. I think it is. I think it's with an eye. All the way to the left, some sort of drop off. Yeah, there's actually a cliff type thing right here. You can see it's like these are on the ledge. There's one on the lower left, 2 bigger. And then you got this other objects right here. You see they kind of cover this, or if it is trees and it's kind of covering up. Keep in mind, if we were to disappear tomorrow, how long would it take for nature to take over and start blocking buildings and growing through buildings and cars and stuff like that over X amount of time? And that's what we're seeing. I said, like, I see people talking about, oh, I see little people. And, like, let's say there's an outcropping, a rock outcropping, and they'll say, oh, I see little people. I'm going, how are these people seeing this? Now, pareidolia, even though it's a made up word to me, but they say, like, you can see, like Goofy, like the shape of Goofy in the clouds. I get that. You know what I mean? But when you see detail in something, that square, rectangular, whatever it may be, clearly that's not, pareidolia. You're seeing actual detail in the object. What's that telling you? Susie, yes, I do. Chris, do you think that they purposely leave certain things in their photos to serve as a soft disclosure? I think so, yes. And I've said that before because I believe the people who want to be in the know are going to dive deep in. They're going to go down the rabbit hole. For the people who are just numb and don't care, they're not going to give a damn anyway. like I said, and I've said this before. I said, if you were to ask any of your friends about, hey, what do you think about the rover, the pictures that would, rover? What are you talking about? What rover? They don't care. They don't, you know what I mean? Like I said, I always make a joke. I say, well, these people come out of work, they go home, they watch a little, reality shows and throw down some bonbons down their throat and they just, okay, time to go to bed. And they repeat the next day. To me, I want to know more than that. You know what I mean? Because it's inquiring minds want to know. So to me, it just makes more sense. I'd rather, look at this stuff and really get into it. And most people don't care. Ask any of your friends or your relatives. They'll be like, I don't get into that. Or I don't know. They just don't know. JRL charge, she said, it looks like a metropolis. Yeah. And like I said, the guy that was the guy that was at the Walmart when I said I'm going to print this picture out, he was like, he goes, oh, the tire tracks. I'm like, what the hell? Oh, I get why he's saying that. Because if you looked at the picture just on the counter, it looks like you're not looking at like if I did this. Well, where's the other one? Let's do this. See how small it is? Now, picture going, oh, yeah, it looks like wheel marks. And it truly does. If you just seen it on a picture, just laying on a counter. But then when you start getting into the photo and you bring it in and start really looking at it, things really start to pop. And you're like, oh, my God. And again, you start analyzing, you're going, oh, my, there's no way, man. This is crazy. And what's really funny about it, it wasn't long after that. I got the photo off him. In fact, I got it hanging on the wall here. I got a real big photo in the back here just to keep it, just to have it. And I've got one hanging on my wall because they're just cool. People, it's a good conversation. People are like, what the hell is that from? And they look at it and they go, you're kidding. And I give them a magnifying glass. I go, here, take this and just pan over it a little bit. They're looking at it going, oh my God, what is all that? I said, that's Mars. And they go, no way. It's just crazy. It's just awesome too. Thought about putting this on a t-shirt too. But the thing is, it's like, when you stop and you see this stuff, you just, most people don't stop and think about it. They just don't care. Me personally, I care. Jade Sperry, you said, every one of your pictures, Chris, and I study them like you do. Keep it up from a fan in Mission BC, Canada. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, scrutinize them. That's all you got to do. Most people just peruse over these photos, and I'm not talking about this one because clearly you'd stop and go, what the hell is that? But I'm talking about just like again, these outcroppings. When you see this on the regular photo, everything's so small and you don't see much of it. But what you see is the tire tracks. In fact, you can see it right here on the lower right corner. It looks like a shape of a V. Well, if you look at the actual wheel marks of the Curiosity, it literally is shaped like that. And then there's a cutout. It says JPL, like in Morse code. There's a band on that wheel that actually says that. So, but they're literally like this all the way across the wheel. And that's what you can see right here. They literally ran this stuff over. For what reason? Are they trying to break it to pieces so there's no proof? Or are they trying to see what the stuff is made out of? Maybe they could find something underneath it or whatever the case is, right? It probably took 1 billion photos before it started running over this stuff. Who knows? Susie, you said, I agree, Chris. They walk around with blinders on either because they don't care or they have no desire for the truth. Or what is real. I agree with you 100%. And I've done that where I come up with a photo and I say, hey, what do you, I have my son come in. He's like, 21 years old. He'll come in and he'll look at the photo. I said, what do you think of this? And he knows I'm into all of this stuff anyway. I said, he go, what the hell is that? I said, what does it look like to you? Oh, it looks like this. I'm going, there you go. Never have to say a word to him. I'll take these photos here. I'll go, there's a buddy of mine who works in, with block and everything else, concrete block and everything else. And I took him this photo one day and I said, what do you think about all that? He goes, oh, what dig site was that? I said, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, it looks like it's like this rounded blocks, this radius in the front, and it's got this right here. And that's pretty wild. Where was that from? I said, oh, this is Mars. He looked at me like I had 3 heads and started laughing. He said, there's no way, dude. I said, I'm just telling you, this is a photo from the Curiosity rover. Because they didn't know what the hell that was either. But this is what I'm getting at. People don't know. They just don't really care. Let me see. I'm just trying to see the ones I went over here. I'm sorry. Um, uh, Daniel Lazarus, he said, I just showed up. Um, Showed up, and this is the moon or the Mars we're looking at. And we're looking at trees. Well, somebody else just answered for you. Thank you for answering that for him. Slim Bim. But yeah, I mean, that was basically a photo 3/4 of a mile off the surface of Mars you seen earlier. Yeah, Jerry, you said, yeah, use the weight of the vehicle for breaking chunks. And again, it might be something they're trying to figure out if it's just what kind of rock it is, right? Because obviously, once they break it open, they can shoot it with the laser, and obviously, it can analyze the smoke or the steam coming off, and they can kind of like can tell and diagnose what that is. They can actually tell what it is, give an analysis of what kind of rock it may be or whatever the case is. So yeah, they're not stupid. They went up there with the intention to really get into this stuff. Jade Sperry said, "Yes, I agree, Chris. NASA have been trying to hide all evidence for decades, rather, since the face of Cydonia pyramids. Yeah, and they still claim like the newer one. Oh yeah, this is what really happened. It was just trick of light. No, it wasn't, because the second one they show you is basically it's definitely AI, and if it's not AI, it's definitely Photoshop. That's trash. When you look at the other photo, you can see it's black and white. It's original. That's the real deal. Then they said, well, we took a better photo of it now. We went over it, and this is what it looks like now. So you're telling me they couldn't have gone around Mars several more times before they came out with this updated photo of it and gotten different angles? No, they just decided to say, no, there's nothing there. You guys are just seeing things. It'll be all right. No, I don't buy that. Here's one of the moon I like a lot. This one here is the structures that you don't see. This is, believe it or not, all this white over here to the right of this is all structures too. It's just because there's so much white trash all over this thing. If you look over here too, you can see what looks like structures and things either coming off of it or something right here. Check this out right here. It's like a flat piece right here, goes up, over, middle piece right here, goes back down. It's symmetrical. You can see that right there. And this is what people need to pay attention to. Dive deep into these photos. And when you do, you see some crazy, crazy things in here. Okay. We got this photo here, or this part of the photo rather, and these here. Let me see if I can find the, no, that's not it. I got a bunch of photos in here. Still got a bunch to go through too. But when you see this photo without this highlight, all that I do is just brought up the, just made it brighter basically, in a sense, was all of this looks dark and these look hidden in the darkness. But this is the way they also take the photos to make it, you know what I mean, to hide it from the public. This one as well in the back, you can see that's like multi-level structure, it looks like from here. And then I'm not sure what's going on with this. It's supposed to be some kind of crater, but that's kind of wild looking. But these two here, there's like two large structures sitting right here. Yeah. They seen these things, and that's why they got up there. That's what the big race is about. And I was saying this before, and I'd done this photo a long time ago. I think it was called Cars on Mars. And, you know, like they use that fisheye lens? What I try to do is readjust that to bring it more down. And you can see what looks like this vehicle, and I'm going to show you this photo in a second. You see this vehicle looks like a guardrail and everything. It's just weird looking, right? Now, is it possible that's just nothing more than a trick of light and it's my pareidolia playing games? Is it possible? Absolutely. But again, we see 3/4 of a mile up. I was trying to find that other photo where it had, I think it was Opportunity. Not 100% sure. It was one of the two. It was either Spirit or Opportunity. But you can see what it looks like. And I showed many people this photo and asked them what they thought it was. And they said it looked like a Jeep. in this one photo, and I laughed because that's the first thing I came out with. I could not find that photo, but I have this one here, and I've been looking at this one for a while. Let me see here. All right, this is the guardrail here. Now, it doesn't look like much. It says car on a roadway because there's something right here, and you can see what looks like the wheels, a guardrail, all right? Here's the original right here, Solve 510, and this is from the MSL. So this particular one is from Curiosity Rover, Solve 510, okay? So when you try to get this fisheye lens and try to bring the photo back, don't get me wrong, you can kind of distort it, so you don't want to go too crazy with it. Not that it's already not distorted now. But then check this out. When you see that, is it nothing more than tricks? Maybe it's like rocks or some kind of weird thing going on? Absolutely, it could be. But what are the chances of these things will look like a guardrail and what looks like some kind of weird car type thing? At least, in my opinion, it kind of looks like one. So to me, is it far-fetched to believe that they didn't have some kind of mobile way to get around? Now, that doesn't mean they had combustion engines. It could have been something else that powered them. It could be anything. We don't know. And again, purely speculative. And of course, this is an enhanced one. Again, Solve 510. You guys want to look this up? This is the raw one. All I do is just put some wording on it. And this is the other one here. And to me, that just, I don't know. That just looks like some kind of vehicle on a roadway. But that's just my opinion. Yeah, Snuffy McGruff, you said, I was so disappointed when they revisited the Cydonia happened and it was all BS. And yeah, and I totally agree with you. I looked at it, I went, oh, come on. Give me a break. Legacy Valley, your question was, and by the way, welcome aboard here. What's Elon Musk's true intentions on Mars? I think he knows what's on Mars, and I can show you 100 photos of things I've seen that are on, and he wants to go there. He even said he wants to die there. Now, why would any man want to do that? Unless he's looking going, okay, we know for a fact the structure's still standing. A lot of them are decimated and in ruins, because I've showed photos of that too. There's many videos I've done. So they see this, and they're like, okay, I want to go up there and I want to explore it. I want to look around before I die. It makes perfect sense to me. If you were a multi-billionaire, you'd want to do the same thing. You know what I mean? It's like, as long as you can go there safely, get there and still live, and then look at all the stuff that's in there. I mean, that's crazy to me. Thomas Stone, NASA, never a straight answer. Yeah, they're definitely not transparent. Let's just put it that way. Legacy Valley, your question was, are they going to dig and live under the surface of Mars? I don't think they will. Again, if they live in an area that still has part of its magnetosphere, the magnetic field, because there is spots on and around Mars that still have a magnetic field. That's a fact. Some people will say, oh, it doesn't have it at all. It does. All you have to do is research this. So you're going to live in that area that tries to block out the sun. And if they still have structures there, you're going to do your best to try to just move into those instead of actually, building your own. But if you do it more modern, meaning modern structures, you're guaranteed to live, I guess. So it depends. But to me, if there is that much on that planet, still structure standing, why wouldn't you just live in that and just retrofit? Makes more sense to me. And you don't have to, bring like a bunch of equipment to go up there and build when there's already stuff there, if in fact it's still intact. I would just rather move into something that's already there. Yeah, I agree with you there, Susie. You said, I just shake my head, and when NASA says it's a crater, someone please show me a crater that's off the ground and has a shadow under it. Exactly. Absolutely. A lot of people see that and go, oh, come on. Give me a break. Slim Bim, you said, oh, yes, I remember this one very, very well. Great job you did on this one, Chris. Yeah, I mean, again, the raw photo, and this obviously, again, but you can see that. I can still see the lines. I can still see the shape of this object. And again, it looks like you can see a little bit of white, which looks like the wheels, and you're just being blocked out by the guardrail, whatever this is. Now, I could be way off base on this. However, again, seeing what we see on the surface, and like I said, if I had the other photo, I'd show it to you guys. I was going crazy trying to find it. That's why I got on later. And then, of course, we had this technical problems with this thing, which it happens. It is what it is. But the thing is, it's like you see this object and you're just going, oh, come on. This doesn't look like just a rock. This is clearly something more. So, but, you couple all of these photos together and you look at these, again, you look at these stones, unenhanced, enhanced. You see that. You see what looks like this vehicle. Again, it looks like a vehicle. We see this. I mean, the list goes on, man. When, we had the Sojourner on here, we see what looks like vehicles in the past, or in the back. We can see it in the back here. Like I said, is it possible, if we think that's what it is it possible they took a cue from them, how they designed their vehicles, and decided to design ours like that? Again, purely speculative. This is what I found interesting. If you look at aerial views of this, was pretty cool. Camouflage over the Lockheed aircraft plant in Burbank, California during World War II, disguising it as a sparsely populated rural area. Now you can see the top photo, it looks like that. But underneath, what do you see? You can see the fabric on top, and all these vehicles and everything are parked underneath it. See that? That's wild to me. And that's a simple thing to build. If you're up in the air, you wouldn't see this. You wouldn't be able to see like the netting. It would be, because the higher you go, obviously the spaces or the little squares or whatever this you'd be able to see through would be almost nil. It'll almost look like a smooth area, like it is actually farm area. But you can see underneath it. That's crazy. Is it possible they could build like that and try to hide, what we can see? I don't know. Rick the Rocker, what's going on, brother? Good to see you in there. He said, the city on Mars is one of my favorites that you did. Yeah, I mean, to me, that just screams like intelligence. I mean, that's all there is to it. Mother of the Homeland, good to see you in there. He says, that thing hollow, what are we talking about? We're going back to... I'm not sure which one you're talking about now. I don't know if you're talking about this one here. Not sure. Slim Bim said, not to forget that there's always present pipes and tubes. Well, the wild thing about that, and it's funny you brought that up, because when I see stuff like that, I automatically assume that it was some kind of industrial area, because I've seen plenty of that on the moon where it looks like these pipes, like almost like it was some kind of industrial thing or some kind of machines or something there that was built, and it just happens to be they're inspecting it. You know what I mean? DJ over time, you said your question was, do you think that the same builders on Mars made structures on the moon, or was it ancient earthlings from the time forgotten? That could be both. Again, my theory is, and it's again purely speculative, is that we might have been a two-planet civilization where we were going back and forth at one time. And at one point, we had catastrophic, things happen to this planet. Fires, floods, this, that, and the other, where a lot of the ancient people believe we're in the fifth cycle. So in other words, we lived, died. Well, not completely, because obviously we're still here. And we're in the fifth cycle. So it's bound to happen again. So if you get almost annihilated, then you have to slowly build, like you're a caveman again, and try to build all those back again. But every time you come back, you come more and more modern. Or were we? So, and if you think about it, if we were like two planet going back and forth, something happens to Mars, they come over here and, it's the only refuge. And, I don't know. But it could be a combination of both. Daniel Lazaris, that's a good point. And I've said this myself. The longer I live, the more I realize everything I've been taught has been a lie. And don't get me wrong, science changes, so we get that. So what they said, like maybe 10 years ago has changed now. So it could be like, well, there's no water on Mars, no H2O. It's only brine, meaning highly salted water. And that was true. But I kept looking at these photos of the Hubble telescope looking at Mars. And every year or every winter on Mars, the caps grow again. And I said, okay, so there has to be, they just claimed there was just sublimation, which basically ice to gas. Okay. If that's true, and they say because of the pressure and everything else on Mars, that it literally will, form like this carbon ice on the planet, on the poles. And I'm like, I don't know. That looks like H2O. So the more I did research, I said, this is water. One guy actually let the cat out of the bag. He was like, well, he was the one that built the drill for the Curiosity rover. So the guy says, and if you look at the drill, it's got a drill, but it has a glass tube around it. He said, we got to be very careful because sometimes it clogs that up. But what it does is while it's drilling, it actually brings up a soil sample inside it. And it can take, and he said, we got to watch out because a lot of it's wet. So the guy interviewed, he goes, what do you mean wet? He says, yeah, there's a water cycle on Mars, especially in where the Curiosity was at the moment. He said, yeah, there's actually a water cycle there. So we know there's a water cycle, and it's not just brine, and it's not just, evaporating gas. So there's 100% H2O as well as brine. We know that because there was a lot of ocean there. So they know that it's kind of like Earth. We have salt and we have fresh water, right? So it's no different. And so the more you look into this stuff, again, just put all the pieces together. And yeah. Eric, you said kind of like the film The Hunter from the Future, 1983. Yeah, that's interesting. I agree with you there, Third Eye Open. You said, I believe there's been several highly sophisticated civilizations on this planet over millennium. Yeah, and I agree with you. I couldn't agree with you more because I said the same thing. I said, if if again we had a catastrophic event happen here, you had to rebuild. So could have happened 4 times. There was a civilization on this planet. Could have been more highly sophisticated than we are now. And it was us. We could have been traveling back and forth to the moon like this other person asked earlier. Is it the same people who were like built on Mars and on the moon? It could have been a combination of both. Maybe we were traveling all over the place at one time. We don't know. And to me, it just makes sense. After seeing what we see now, is it possible, again, if we look at we're going to call them cars because it could have been any mobile device that they use to get around. If they look very similar to what we have on here, is it possible they were existing at the same time? Or where we are today is where Mars was then and had their collapse, meaning the catastrophic event. So we are where we are now, where they were then. So is it possible we were from Mars and came here? I don't know. I don't know the answer. There's no way to vet any of that. DJ over time, the photo of the frozen Martian couple is amazing. That's my favorite for sure. I think you're talking about the one that was from Martine Rainey, I think. Yeah, I mean, it does look like that. I'm going to be honest. It does look like that. Now, I've seen other things that she showed, and I don't agree with. And I'm not saying that she's bad because I know her personally. I don't mean we hang out or anything, but I mean I've talked to her on live feeds and stuff like that when we had like a group going on, and she does really good work. I think that's who you're talking about. I could be wrong, but you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. But she does like incredible work. She finds some really crazy stuff on some of these things, and that one you're talking about that looked like they were kind of huddled together. That was actually pretty wild, and I thought that was a good one. Snuffy McGruff, you said Homo sapien is 300,000 years old with same potential. Well, yeah, because, back in the day, it's like, well, back in the years, um, you know, what's funny about it is, remember before, if you go back and when you're in, like, let's say even the 80s, you go back and you go, okay, they said that man's only like 6,000 years old. Went from caves to what we are now. Okay. Then it was like we found these ancient civilizations here on Earth, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. Göbekli Tepe is like, 7,000 or 11,000, whatever it was. And as they find these things more and more and more, they're going, oh my God. Now we were like 100,000 years old. Then it was 150,000 years old. Then 250, so 250,000 years old. 350,000. We don't know our past. We don't. We're trying to figure it out. And the only way you can figure it out is if you put the bits and pieces together, like they're doing in Egypt, trying to figure out, okay, were these actually ancient power plants or these actual, were they actual tombs? So, there's the debate back and forth and everything else. And I believe that's a possibility. I mean, we don't know. Because they said, well, there's no writings in the Great Pyramid. There's no writings. So they believe it's some kind of power plant. Now, is that possible? I don't know. I would be 50-50 on that. But the thing is, it's wild the way they built those things. And they think that the Egyptians actually happened upon them. In other words, they didn't build them. Although some of them say, if you read some of the scriptures or their writings, they say right out, we built these with the help of the overseers. Who the hell's the overseers? So they believe, obviously, ancient civilization or, people from another planet, what have you. Oh, okay, yeah. But, that's, Slim Bimmy said, Art Alien TV. Okay, so Joe did the one that had with Montine. I know who you're talking, which one. It's Martine Graney's. And like I said, she does good work. Now, I don't always agree with what she finds because some of it's kind of like vague and it's like, you know what I mean? And she'll do her best to try to enhance it too. And like I said, I'm not always right on what I see either. I just, like I said, I'll bring the stuff out. I'll let you guys see it and you make your own decisions. That's all there is to it. And I always said that because I had people when I first started, oh, you're just trying to tell people these things. No. I'm not trying to tell anybody. I'm saying, listen, this is what I found. This is what it looks like to me. You guys make your own decisions. At the end of the day, it's up to you. You can either look it up yourself, research the photo, and a lot of people use Photoshop to bring out this stuff themselves, and they concur. And some of them say, "Well, I can't quite get what you get out of yours." I'm like, "Listen, this is the way I do it. This is the way it comes out, and I'm not adding anything. You can see there's something there. I'm not drawing it in. It's literally just being brought out of through the manipulation or whatever. And sometimes you can't get hardly anything out of it because it's so dense on there that it's hard to get out. But hey, Anchor Point, what's going on? Good to see you in there. He said, if they can hide stuff on Earth, they can hide stuff in space. Oh, yeah, 100%. And like I said, when you have what they do to the photos on the moon, what do you think they're doing? You think they're going to stop there? No, they're going to do everything they can to hide what's on Mars too. I mean, it just makes sense. They don't want the public to know this. They want, the higher-ups, the people who actually own this planet, the ultra-rich, they want to be the one to get their hands on any of this stuff, or at least be in the know. Scott Brzezicki, good to see you in there. He said, my yoga meditation guru said, although man came to the planet, I'm sorry, 1 million years ago, it is only within the past 15,000 years that man was advanced before there was the Dark Age. I mean, there's all kinds of different time frames that they're using, anything up to 100,000 years to what you're saying. I've heard that more than once. It's hard to tell. And I don't think we really know. That we're judging our age of humanity as far as intelligent humans, by what we're seeing. Because obviously, if it goes back, you say, well, when they came out of the caves, they finally started getting smarter about 6,000 years ago. Well, then you find a dig site, like Göbekli Tepe. You're looking at that and you go, well, wait a minute, that was 7 or 11,000 years ago. Well, wait a minute, okay, kind of smashes that theory. So you know what I'm saying? It's then it goes back, man of this, and then they're finding bones and they find all kinds of crazy stuff. I remember hearing they had in one of these caves, they were digging deep into it and they hit a brick wall, literally. And they said it was like over 100,000 years ago. I'm like, what the hell? So this was years ago I heard about this. And they were just digging in some kind of cave. I don't know what it was. But so imagine over a course of time, dirt built up over this wall or whatever, unless it was some kind of underground housing or whatever it was. But they said they literally hit a brick wall. It was a brick wall. So I'm like, okay, that's crazy. Yep, I agree with you there. You said pre-Younger Dryas people even. Yeah, yep. Anchor point, good question. You said, how is it possible for all space agencies or space going countries going to hide this? How? Well, here's the thing. People like NASA have the what was it? The DoD. They got to answer to Department of Defense. It's highly military. They're allowed to only let out so much information. Okay, so every country who's spacefaring, right? Well, I don't want to say spacefaring because it's not really humans going there, but machines and landers and whatever. You are going to be dictated what you can do. So let's suppose, for argument's sake, the ultra rich get together. Okay, we want to own whatever's on this planet, and there's a whole room full of these people from every country in the world that's going to go up there, whether it's Japan, Russia, which has been up there, China, obviously America, so on and so forth, right? And many other countries that had a hand in it building this stuff. So, so they all get together and they have this agreement. And they say, okay, so we're going to agree not to tell the public. This is what we can give out. So now, like NASA gets its money, its funding through, the government. So what do? They have to show these photos. So if I'm paying you X amount of millions of dollars because you're asking for it, billions of dollars, whatever, I want to see some kind of proof, meaning I want to see photos. I want to see what's going on. What are you spending the money on? So obviously I want to show you a photo. It could be highly manipulated and obfuscated and, whatever. All they got to do is that. And, oh, by the way, this is what we've been spending the money on. We're really into the research on this planet. We're really making progress. In the meantime, they're really not doing that. They're using this money to literally go there and find all of this stuff and much, much deeper stuff than, oh, we just want to go there and just take a pictures of rocks. And so, I mean, when you see pictures of this, aren't they supposed to be taking basically soil samples, analyzing it, sending it back to Earth? So by taking a photo of this area, what's it proving? To me, this looks like structures that have been exploded. To me, that's exactly what that is. I can't see any other way. Like I said, the more you look at this photo and the small things in here where they try to block it out and blur it out, you can see things like rectangular pieces, framing pieces, all kinds of weird stuff. 100% that they're taking a photo of destruction and ruined areas. That's all there is to it. Areas that have been decimated. Hey, Toe Guy, what's going on? Good to see you there, man. So, well, hey there, friend. What's going on? I hope you've been well. Scott Brasecki, you said the pyramids were hibernation chambers for the builders to improve their health. They had trouble staying healthy on Earth. The atmospheric composition and air pressure and temperature were all wrong. Well, I don't know about that, but they had because the Earth was warmer, more humid. It was definitely better than it is now. That's why they said people used to grow taller and everything else back in the day. There was much more dense oxygen. It was definitely better air quality. Now, I don't know about germs and everything else that would kill people, but because they didn't have the technology to really heal them, like we have shots and stuff and garbage today. I mean, stuff like that. But they... Trying to see something here. Trying to see if there's another part. I mean, obviously they'd have some kind of plagues going around and stuff like that. So that's unavoidable at the time. Um, but some of them knew how to live off the land, meaning certain, plants and stuff like that could cure and all this other stuff. So it was pretty good with that. Um, but I don't know. Like I said, it was supposed to be a lot better air quality and everything else back then. So if anything, they lived better other than famine, kind of like I said, if you get some kind of disease or something like that, it kills 250,000 people, whatever the hell. But I don't know. Let's see. We'll just slide this bad boy over here. Third Eye Open, you said, I don't think we'll ever know. But also, I think there are those who do know, but will never let us let out, at least they lose control, unless they lose control. Well, and I agree with that too. It's like, or they're on their deathbed and just want to spill it all. But I don't know. I think a lot of this, like I said, the big questions and the big thing that they should be concentrating, especially people in Congress, when they're hearing all these UFOs and other, who cares? You know what I mean? I'll tell you why. Do I like the idea of, other visitors coming to Earth? I don't have a problem with that. And I think some of that is actually happening. I think a lot of these UFOs we're seeing are our crafts. But it's like, when you look at the pictures of what's on the moon and on Mars, UFOs mean squat to me. It's like saying, to me, it's like, well, this is probably where they came from. So the bigger picture is not the UFOs. Where did they come from? So, of course, they're trying to figure that out. To me, it's like they probably came from other planets in our solar system. Simple as that. Oh, no, they didn't. There's no way. That's why you hear them saying, well, for all of them, if they have to be highly technological, because in order for them to come from where they're coming from, what are you talking about? You make it, they automatically want to point outside our solar system. You ever notice that? Oh, it's, they're coming from way out. They're probably hitting wormholes and everything here to get here and everything. That's not what that means. Come on. You don't know that. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible. Of course it's possible. But I'm saying it's like, how do you know it's not right here in our own solar system? We don't know that. And I think that might be more the answer than exo solar system. DJ over time, good question. Is the Lost Book of Enki true? Well, the writings are, at least, they claim, a lot of these scholars, they read it and, it says what it says. I'm not sure, to be truthful. I didn't read it myself. I've only heard bits and pieces, so I really can't weigh in on that. Now, if you look at like a book of Ezekiel, where he talks about how, which is obviously not Enki, but when you hear about writings like that, they've taken that out of the Bible, but he talks about how he's up in the firmament looking down on Earth, and how these people from up in the firmament were teaching them English, all kinds of things, how to grow food, this, that, and the other, mathematics, all this other. He actually knew them by name. So, I mean, it's just crazy. Now, is it true, or is it something that was, I just made it up and he just happened to be a sci-fi writer way back in the day? Not sure about that. Slim Bim 77 says, Joe from Odd Alien TV found a ton of heads and bones or calcified animals, people, and what have you. Even if he's wrong in half of them, I would still be 50%. He found that frozen couple too. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's a lot of things that I can see make sense. When you see things like that, you say, "Oh, is that possible? That could happen?" But why not? If they had what was it, Pompeii? They were basically frozen in time, and they just kind of frozen their position. Is that a possibility? Sure. You know what I mean? What I don't get about when you think about Mars, they say, well, what happened was the atmosphere got sucked out, and it's still being sucked out today. Wait a minute, how long does it take to disappear? That doesn't make any sense to me. And they say it happened millions of years ago. Millions of years ago, okay. So let's see. It's slowly going away, yet there's no atmosphere to keep it in. But yet, when you think about the atmosphere, and then you go, you see, I don't know if any of you folks have seen this, but you see pictures of Curiosity when they were looking up into the sky, and you can see what looks like wispy clouds. You can see clouds, some of them like cumulus nimbus, and you can see stratus clouds, like, where it looks like it's like weather changing clouds. And you can see them, they're just traveling across the sky. They have like little tidbits, like three photos, and they put them together. You can see it traveling. Come on. There's much more going on Mars. I think you can literally almost live there if you went there. It wouldn't take too much to actually live on that planet. Scott, you said when the Earth's volcanoes blackened Earth's skies or moon was the moon was not visible. Oh, absolutely not. Um, and it basically would send you into a nuclear winter, basically, in a sense. If that did happen, all the volcanoes just erupted, blackened the skies. Yeah, all the soot and everything in the air, whatever. It literally will just like you go into like a winter, like a nuclear winter type thing, and everything dies on it. Now, there was a time, they said that the ancients said there was a time before the moon. That's why they think it was brought here, because out of nowhere, it's like it just showed up one day. It's like, that's crazy. So I don't know how true that is as far as them saying there was a time without the moon. Because you go, okay, what about the tidal waves and the way it has a play on the earth and everything else? And that's interesting. So that's why they say, well, again, it was like brought here. DJ over time, he said, have you heard about the giant monolith on Mars moon? I believe it was Phobos. Well, yeah, because you got Buzz talking about that. He said, yeah, wait till they see this big, monolith. And they got pictures of it. It is an actual monolith, and it's pretty darn tall. I forget how tall they say it is, because they'd have to go by how far they are off the moon, off that particular moon. And, the shadow, the angle of the sun, there's so many calculations that to play in. So I don't know. But I did see the photos of it. It is actually like a monolith standing right up off the surface. Pretty wild. Snuffy McGruff, you said Moon Wars and the Vedas. Yeah, the Indian text there and Sanskrit and everything else was pretty wild, because they talked about how, they had flying cities that were at war with each other, had weapons brighter than the sun, and so on and so forth. Um, Let me see. I'm trying to remember. But yeah, I mean, they talked about all kinds of things like that, which is crazy. And they showed like, of course, there's like illustrations, and it showed like these basically floating cities, and they would be warring with each other. The Mahabharata talks about that, like we're talking about, and it's just crazy, crazy things back in the day. Now, again, were these sci-fi writers back in the day, or did they write about something they actually saw? Scott, you said the length of the day and the orbital tilt of Mars is almost the same. I think it's like 40 minutes longer. So it's like 24-hour and 40 minutes, I believe. And they actually say, believe it or not, our bodies are more in tune with Mars than it is here on Earth. That's another thing that plays, because they said a little bit less gravitational pull on the body, you wouldn't have all the problems you have today. Like as you get older, just your body just compacts. You get shorter as you get older. They say that the oxygen was probably better. Everything about it was more. Your body was more in tune with Mars than it is here on Earth. Like you wouldn't burn as easy on Mars because it's a little further away, obviously, from the sun. Wouldn't be as bad as far as that goes. There's just a range of things they were saying. Our body's more in tune with that planet than us, than Earth. Berticus the Third, you said NASA was caught covering up a forbidden city live on air. Um, I'm not sure when that was, but I mean, if you're talking about you're talking about the feed from the ISS, um, because there's many things they've done. I don't doubt that part, because there's so many times that they've literally said, "Oh, we're switching cameras," or "feed is now down," or something like that, and it's always something coming into view, and all of a sudden, whoop, they cut the feed or they switch cameras. Where obviously this thing's traveling, they shut off, and they put this other camera on, so you're not seeing that thing fly over, past. But so many times, people have actually been like watching it, and they'll record their screen. So in other words, I'm watching it on my screen. I just hit record, and I can watch it, and then say, "Hey, look at this," and you know what I mean. And they've done that more than once. DJ, yeah, you said the dark side of the moon played music in the astronaut's ear when they went out there. Yeah, it was on the back side of the moon where they can hear music, and they were asking, obviously they're out of communication with Earth, and they were asking them, they were like, "Hey, you guys hear that?" And they're like, and so when they finally got into communication, they said, "No, no, we don't hear anything. What are you talking about?" "Yeah, we can hear music. This kind of weird, eerie music." And I think they had like a recording of that too. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Susie, your question was, Chris, are you aware of the active volcanoes on Mars? Yeah, there actually was one or two of them. I'm trying to remember which one it was because they got the three volcanoes together in a row, and I'm almost positive, and I don't remember which one it is now. I'm trying to remember if it was the one. If you look at the picture, there's three of them. There's like one, two, three, and I think it was the one on the bottom. Now, one of the photos I went and I looked at that because you can see what looks like trailing smoke for like, I don't know what it was, like a couple miles from the base. Now, they say they don't know if that was an eruption or if that's just because of the cold air. Like you got clouds and the high mountains, and it's just kind of like travel. You know, you got like updraft coming up one side of it, and it's like heat and cold, and it makes like a steam, like clouds, and it comes off that. Now, one of the photos I had taken, and this is wild, when I took the photo from the NASA site and I put it into Photoshop, what I did was I darkened and I brought down that cloud area, and what I found was a rectangular piece right at the base of that volcano. And I'm going, interesting. Why would there be like it was like a brighter like rectangle, and then you can see the smoke or whatever it's supposed to be. I'm going, why is there something rectangular at the base of that? So maybe it blew up. I mean, there's no other way to say it, because if it's coming from that and it happens to be rectangular, is that a possibility? I don't know. But I thought that was weird because it happened several times. I don't mean that particular, if it was, like again, speculative, if it was an explosion, it wouldn't happen over and over again. But it happened like, I think it said 2 or 3 times they had photos of it. Not sure if I'm going to pronounce your name right. Matt? Is it Matt? Matt Tin? NM? NM, I guess. Um, Matt Tin, I guess it is. Great to see you, Chris. Been watching you for years, brother. I appreciate it, man. I do appreciate you helping me out there, brother. That's awesome. Matt the man. I'm trying to remember if it's this one here. Let me see. No. Hey, folks. Okay. Nope, this side it. I thought I had the other button here. But yeah, I do appreciate the support, brother. Uh, let me see. Briticus, you said Forbidden City is on Mars. Um, I'm not sure if it's forbidden or not. It's just like, but there's so much there to see. And again, this is the reason why these guys are all going there. And that's the big story. That's what Congress should be like focusing on. That's what I find interesting. It's like again, we go back to the UFOs. UFOs, who cares? I want to see this, where the real money's going. Scott, you said Chris on the channel called Blue Planet Red with Brian Corey Dobbs is talking about Mars stuff too, and showing photos and discussing. Oh, that's awesome. I think more and more people need to get into this and get this done and get it out. But will anybody take notice of it? You know what I mean? It's like, and this is funny because I'd love to get on with Joe, because what's funny about this is that when I seen that other dirtbag, let me see here. This clown, Bart, I would love to debate this guy right there on Joe, with Joe. This guy's a clown. And again, you're talking about, he says, well, it's fake and there's no way to get the rover up there. And then there's like a delay and, you can hear him going, shh, don't, now go ahead and speak. I mean, it's just, he takes everything out of context and just trying to make it into his own. And every time he's on any of these talk shows, because I've seen him on more than one, I think it was like 3 now, that he keeps trying to promote his site. Well, again, it comes down to making money, and that's what it's all about to these guys. And it's like, listen, he's disinformation. Oh, we've never been to the moon. Dude, there's no way to fake that. Now, people have said, it was filmed and everything else. Now, I will agree on one thing. Is it possible that they made a video, and I do believe this myself, is that they made this video purposely in case something went wrong up there, that they could show the people, look, we've been there. We were the first ones up there. Yee-haw. But I don't believe that's the real reason. I think what the real reason is to show the general public, this is what we're doing up there. Now, I want you to think about this a minute. You spend millions of dollars, time, pay all these kind of people to put this stuff together. You finally get these men, these astronauts, in the spacecraft, send them to the moon. But one of the things you're going to have them do is playing golf on the moon. Come on, please stop. I think it was basically a front to show the people, well, this is what's going on. We're just picking up rocks. We're drilling for some cores and we're just going to throw some rooster tails up in the air. We're just going to floor the lunar surface. Look, we're having a good time. They're sitting there laughing and joking, having a good time. Wait a minute. These people, if you were going up there for the very first time, would you not be afraid of dying up there? But yet they're having all kinds of fun. So I think that aspect of it was recorded so that people say, oh my God, look what we have achieved. This is so awesome. But what really went on was that they were there at these lunar structures, these crafts, and they were taking parts of these things apart. I don't care for small pieces, just for the metal, just so they can analyze it when they get back. Or they were taking different pieces out of these structures or these crafts. That's what I think was really going on. And of course, they brought some rocks back because they needed to do that. Oh, yeah, we took these soil samples and we get these rocks. I think there was like, I think Charlie said he brought back about 250 pounds worth of rocks. So, okay. But that doesn't mean they didn't bring anything else back. So, in that aspect, I don't believe that because, again, it's just, oh, look what we brought back. Yeah, here's the rocks. In the meantime, okay, let's take out this briefcase full of the stuff we really want to show that we wanted to bring back. So, I think it was a front as far as that goes. And, and he was actually on with Charlie Duke, this meathead. He was on there with him, and he's going, Charlie's looking at him going, so what are you saying? So the other guy said to him, he goes, well, he's just saying he doesn't believe the moon. He just looked at him. You don't believe the moon, landings and missions were real? He's like, oh my God. And that, again, I would look at him like he's dumb too. I'd be like, are you serious right now? These people, they spent time, they practiced, these guys, a lot of these guys were Air Force pilots and stuff like that. They weren't just like some, dope on the street corner somewhere. These guys knew their shit. I mean, I don't know. But this guy, yeah, there's no such thing. We never went to the moon. I mean, when you watch him, he's such a clown. And just about everything he comes out with, you can literally look up and find it yourself. From good sources, too. So, and then when he clocks him like that is hilarious. It's like, boom. Oh, yeah. I did not love that. But, yeah. People never cease to amaze me. Tim Houston, you said Apollo missions were friggin' suspicious. I'll die on that hill. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of reasons to, in a sense, be suspicious. And there's nothing wrong with being suspicious. But what do you think is your biggest suspicion about the moon missions? Because I'm just generally curious about that. Because you could find a lot of people on there saying, being naysayers. But here's the thing. And I said this before. Back in the 80s when they had the 2020 magazine. You remember that, guys? That like the tabloid 2020 magazine? And they showed a picture, and I seen this myself. I don't know if it was late 70s or early 80s, where it showed a picture of what looked like the lander, and up in the upper right corner, they showed what looked like a girder. So I said, see, I told you. Well, that doesn't mean that it was fake. Was that a museum? And they just happened to take a picture of it, and they just highlighted a girder to make it look like it was fake to begin with. And then we'd have to ask the question, who perpetuated this? So in the future, it could be debated so that you can go, oh yeah, that wasn't fake. I mean, that wasn't real. So therefore, anything these people are finding on the moon or on Mars or whatever it may be, it doesn't matter. It's all fake. Is that a possibility? I say yes, a strong possibility of it. Okay, so you're talking about the command module doesn't cast a huge visible shadow in orbit or from orbit. Well, you got to remember, you got to look at the size of the actual command module, right? Look at the size of it. Now, I want you to. Here's a perfect example. Take a frisbee, whatever. Put it close to the ground in the sun. Obviously, it's defined. It looks perfect. The more you pull away from that, it gets fuzzy and it disappears. It no longer casts a shadow. You can remember these guys are approximately 75 to 85 miles off the lunar surface. What's the chance of you seeing a shadow from something that small? When I say something that small, I mean compared to the moon, it wouldn't even cast a shadow. And if it is, it'd be so large, it'd be like you know what I mean, just barely. It'd be super large, and you just wouldn't see it. But I don't even think you would even be a super large. Now that I think about it, it would be just not there, non-visible. Again, if you were to take a frisbee and just bring it out, keep bringing it out as far as you can, the shadow would disappear. And if I remember correctly, it's about 75 to 85 feet, or miles rather. I'm sorry, from the actual lunar surface. So the chance of you seeing a shadow is probably slim and none. And yeah, Scott, you were saying the same thing. He said, I don't think the Earth satellites cast a shadow on Earth, onto Earth. And that's the thing. You got to remember that. It's like the naysayers when they say, oh, the Earth is not spinning, all this other crap. It's like, here's a perfect example. You're in a Bugatti, okay? Capable of what, 210, 230 miles an hour? Hard acceleration off the line would tear your head off. I mean, the G-force would be pretty darn strong. But once you get up to 100 miles an hour and stay at that speed, there is no G-force. You're already on something that's moving, like the Earth. Now, if the Earth was to abruptly stop or speed up, you would feel that. It's just, you got to, there's a lot of people that failed science. Let's just put it that way. All right. Tim, you said, considering the hostile conditions on the moon, and I'll stop right there on that part. You got to remember, these had like atmospheric conditions. They had like basically an air cooler and heater inbuilt into their suit. In other words, that big pack that they had on their back. Look it up. It's actually pretty wild the way they built these things. Cameras strapped on their chest. Yep. And these were all tested and done on Earth when they put it on. In other words, they had it perfectly in a certain angle. So when they did it, they just because remember they had got gloves on, so they can't really jerk this thing around. It's got to be perfectly there. They know how far to step back. And if you notice on these photos, they have crosshairs. Okay, so all they got to do is just stand somewhere, take a picture of whatever, and some of them they held, but most of them are on their chest, and they could tell the distance from each object, and I think the depth and everything of these things, right? So they were, believe me, they checked this and they researched this on Earth long before they went to the moon. No looking through the viewfinder. Like I said, it's kind of like it's already on your chest. You just point it. Let's say you want to point it at the other astronaut in the capsule. Just take a picture. It's that easy. And they can take multiple pictures in case one, obviously, they didn't make it. But just look up the camera itself. It's pretty wild. Berticus Third, you said, do you think Mars and Earth were sister planets seeded at the same time? I'm not sure because Mars cooled before Earth. So I'm going to say that life started before Earth as far as actual life, you know. So at least that's what we've been told as far as, now we do know that Mars did cool before then, so life probably started there first. Hence, it might be panspermia, somehow we made it here to Earth. Or as the years went by, over millions of years, again, we had cycles of our own lives, and somehow that's what happened. So in other words, we had life there first and then life here. Or, like I said in the past, we don't know. Was it sister planets we can go back and forth at one time because the time overlapped, right? I don't know. Tim, you said, but all of the pictures are perfect in focus, correct aperture settings. They had to adjust manually with bulky gloves. I reserve the right to, and you're right. Listen, and you have every right to be suspicious. All I ask is just do some research on that particular, on the cameras and the way they went about this. And it'll answer your questions. But I understand you should be suspicious. And actually, I tell people you should be. You should push to do that because when you're suspicious, you're more likely to research. If you just go, no, don't believe in it, without doing any research, well, it's kind of leaving yourself short because you're not getting to understand all of this stuff. And I like to see people who are, well educated and research this stuff. But yeah, why do you think how do you think I started this stuff? Because I was like, I saw one guy's video. I'm going, yeah, whatever, dude. I said, I don't even believe that. But then I'm looking, I'm going, wait a minute. How is it that there was one video he had done and one of the rocks was transparent? Now, how the hell could that be? Since when do we have transparent rocks on Earth or unless it's a diamond? But how do we have that on Mars? Well, that's when you start to become suspicious about, maybe it's not a rock. Maybe it's something that was put on top of that object to make it look like a rock, but you can still see like a rectangular white piece behind or through this rock. And that was through a normal photo. That wasn't anything I manipulated or enhanced to bring out. There you go. Yeah, and like I said, and I agree with you. A lot of these photos are suspect, and they deserve to be looked into. This is the reason why when I looked into these photos, and in fact, I'll probably share this one because I was going to share it with you, but I got to go to bed. I got to get up at about 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. But the thing is, it's like I'm going to show you this other video. And I've always told you to be suspect of any kind of moon photo you see. Let's suppose you see the lander with the, and this particular photo is this way too, where you see an astronaut, he's at the lander, but there's a big white area compared to all the other areas around it. Be suspicious of it. Why? Because there's something in it. There's no reason that should be super bright there, and everywhere else it's got more detail. That area doesn't. It's more whitish and whited out. Why? Because there's things in it, and there's things all over around these landers. Why? And I'm going to show you too. You'll see, you're going to go, oh, okay, this makes perfect sense now. Why? Because they wanted to land. This is the reason why they do these. They did these between the LRO pitches and the Apollo 10 missions. They were literally taking pictures of all of these lunar areas for this reason. They wanted to know where to land so that they can get in the middle of this stuff and then check it out. So you should be suspicious of these photos. Like when you see these white mountains in the background, those are templates to me. And what I mean by that is if they have a large object they want to take out, they just drop this template right on. Again, with acetate, they get the real photo. Let's say it shows, I'm going to say a hypothetical, it shows a giant structure in the background. They want to get rid of that. Well, all they can do is they take this acetate and they put this mountain, this fake mountain type thing over it, and then they retake the picture. So it's literally taking the object right out of the picture. So yes, a lot of them are suspect and they have been sanitized in one form or another. So absolutely. Earthman, you said, Chris, a long time ago, you referenced Sean Ward's research. Thank you. Oh yeah, absolutely. John does a great job on his stuff. In fact, like I said, we had podcasts together. And we have, we talk about many things and stuff like that. And yeah, very knowledgeable. Yep, like Scott said, he was interviewed on a channel called Blue Planet Red with Brian Corey. Timmy said, I appreciate we can discuss these issues without acrimony. Yeah, absolutely. Because here's the thing. It's like, again, when I do these videos, again, I want people to say, hey, maybe there's something to this. I'm going to research it myself and come up with my own conclusions. And that's what I really want to push. It's about researching this stuff. If you're in doubt, this is what I want to ask you. Well, not ask you so much, but this is what I'm going to ask you to do. Do not watch all these other idiots that are doing these photos. Hey, it's all fake, man. It's just garbage. Don't do that. Do your own research into these things, whether it be the cameras, the gloves, how do they do this, how do they do that. Again, you can literally go into Google and I just hit the microphone and ask the question. It gives me the answers. Now, if I'm not happy with the answers, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just do it myself and research into it. When you research, your mind's not going to lie to you. It's going to tell you the truth. I mean, when you get other people going, yeah, it's fake, and why? I just believe so. Well, don't believe so. You got to know why. So I always push people to say, do your own research, come up with your own conclusions. If you do the right research, you're going to come up with the right answer. That's all there is to it. Yep. Like you said, we're all here to learn. We all have more in common than not. Absolutely. And Scott, you said, again, you were saying the remote viewer was under the impression that the pyramids of Mars were hibernation chambers to restore health. I don't know if that's the one you were talking about where they had that remote viewer and they were talking about what they do is at first the guy didn't even know that was Mars. They said something about, they just gave him coordinates and said to go and then look into it. And it's like, oh, yeah. He's seen these giant cliffs and everything else, walking through these valleys, giant cliffs. And then finally, then they said, okay, now go to this destination. He'd go to that one. And he'd say, oh, then he ran into people, these tall, spindly looking people of Mars. And they were saying that, our planet's in trouble. We have a crew, like people going out right now. They took off of Mars to go get help, basically. So I don't know if they came here or whatever at the time, whatever the case was, but they said, we're in trouble. We basically killed our planet kind of thing going on. And they were talking about that, but they were talking about these large rooms that some of them didn't even have roofs or anything like that. And there was people inside there and they said, do they see you? And they were talking to them. So I don't know if it's the same one you saw or read about. Robert Fitch, your question was, if there's nothing to hide, why did they airbrush so much? Exactly. There'd be, every time they tell you, like any of the Martian photos, this is raw photos. What's that say to you? So if it's a raw photo too, like on Mars or the moon, then what's to do? Now, they do say that they make it aesthetically, better for the eyes to look at. Okay. I'd rather they didn't. But they said they had to make it like an RGB so they, you can see it better because a lot of these things are like in the infrared kind of spectrum, so on and so forth. So they have to put color into them. And I get that. That makes sense to me. But a lot of them, you can see purposely put blur, digitizing areas, like all digital, like squares. Like I said, just many of these things, over brightened, over darkened. All kinds of crazy tactics that they use to hide details in these photos, and yet you can find them. All you got to do is look. That's all there is to it. Don't listen to anybody else. You don't even have to listen to me. Go look into it yourself and then find out. You'll be happy you did. That's the way I look at it. Snuffy McGruff, said, that's the fun thing I do now. When I see someone, before I get judgmental, like on the street, I start calling them human first. We have way more similar than our brains are programmed to think. Absolutely. Not a space agency. And here's the thing, too. And I can understand a lot of people's, points of view about them because they've lied. Or if they didn't lie, they're definitely holding back the truth. So I get that. And I'm the same way because when you think about NASA, you think, oh, my God, they're like, the frontiers into space. They're building. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things that they do good, which is good, is that, they'll do things like experiments on the ISS. And a lot of that makes it back to, stuff that they can make for us, the consumer, in our own homes. Whether it be, whatever the heck they make up there or they design, they can actually use it here on Earth. So they, in that aspect, it's a good thing. But the reason, again, they're nothing but puppets. They can only let out so much information. This is the reason why I think they're trying to, subcontract to, Elon Musk and all these other people. Because they don't want to get the heat on this. They're just like, just the hell with it. You know what I mean? Although they still work hand in hand with him. And they subcontract him out on his space agency. And it makes sense. I seen that one too, Scott. You said there was also a boy on Earth named Boriska, a Russian boy who was remembering his previous life on Mars. I remember that. That goes way back. That was how many years ago? Tim, you said, as far as Bart is concerned, I think he's highly driven by his faith, for better or worse. And to a certain degree, I would agree with that. But I think he used it as a tool, too, because he's like, yeah, swear in the Bible, you win. Again, it would be such a feat to try to fake that. Think about all that's involved. I mean, when you stop and think about it, when they talk about, well, the spacecraft never goes up straight. It goes off, like it's going to go into the ocean. And it does appear to do that. But again, we need velocity to go around a couple of times around the Earth and then slingshot over to the moon. Shut off the engines. You don't need them. You're in trajectory. There's no friction. You'll keep going. Once you get towards the moon, you slow down with the fuel you have, land on the moon, and obviously they're there for X amount of time. They get back in there, and all they need is just a little fuel to get off there. Again, it's 1/6 of the gravity. Doesn't take much to get off that moon, off the surface. Back off, go back to the command module, hook back up with it, come back to Earth. It's really not complicated. A lot of people want to make it that way, and it's really not. Of course, that's like a quick version of it, but if you want to get technical, you can look it up, and it explains everything. Okay, Scott, I see what you're saying. Joe Moneagle, I guess what it is. Mac Moneagle, with the remote view. Okay. I don't know why I thought his name was different than that, but I could be wrong, and that's fine. Well, this was interesting, folks. I got to get out of here because it is late. I was only going to go on here for a couple hours, but if you want, like I said, I'm going to try to get on around 5:30, 6 o'clock. As early as I can on Wednesday. If I'm not going to, I will give you guys a heads up the day before or prior to even getting on at that time to let you know. But let's just make a date for that. Wednesday around, let's call it 5:30, 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. And this way we can all get in there and chat it up again. It's been real, guys. I'll be honest with you. It's fun to be able to do this again. It's been so long since I've done this, and we can get a lot more conversation and get more into it if we want, and just bring different topics, questions, whatever. I enjoy this. And like we were talking about, it's good to be able to, we can agree to disagree on a lot of things. Like I said, I only ask people, just do your own research. That's all. You don't have to listen to anybody, including me. Look it up. If there's anything you say, I just highly doubt this, there's no way, look up that particular subject. Again, and getting the lunar buggy on the capsule, the lander, there's no way. Absolutely there's a way. I've seen the thing in person. Went down to, what do you call it? Kennedy Space, the Kennedy Space Center. And you can see the thing. It's small. It might as well, it's like lawn chairs in a frame, aluminum frame. And for good reason. They had 2 astronauts. They want to be able to move this thing, 4-wheel electric wheels, electric motors. And it's just wild to see it. Again, as light as possible, function the way they want it to, plain and simple. Doesn't have to be high tech. Doesn't. I know how many people, he's like, how many, so we had more computing power in our phone. This is what Bart was saying. It's got more computing power in your phone than they ever had. Absolutely. He's not lying. What he's not telling you, though, is that everything was controlled manually. If anybody's into electrical, they know exactly what the hell I'm talking about when they talk about a toggle switch or a momentary switch. Yar and roll. It's not complicated. It really is not. Switch, relay, thrust. It's really not complicated. They had communications. They knew what was going on. They can communicate. It's not hard to do. There's no obstructions from here to Earth, from here to the moon. There's no obstructions. Nothing to get in the way to block out signal. People are like, I could barely get a cell phone signal in, but yet they're talking to them. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It can be done. And there's actually people, look up ham operators who do this. They literally, I forgot what they call it, earth bounce, or you can just Google it. Just ham operators, moon bounce, signal, or whatever it's called. But they can communicate, just bounce it off the moon. And you can see they got Yagi antennas. Anybody who's into ham radio or anything like that, you got Yagi antennas, high power, bounce it right off the moon. They do it with lasers. This is the reason, they left, mirrors up there, and they can bounce a laser off. They can tell how much the moon is pulling away every year. I think it's like I forget what it is, like an inch every year it's pulling away. Half an inch, whatever it was. But they can tell by bouncing this laser off the moon, they can tell how far it is from us. You don't actually see the beam come back, but you see particles come back and they can receive it, and they know by the time it hits it and comes back, they know. It's just research it. It's really not complicated. Donna Brogan, what's going on? Good to see you in there. Yeah, I'm just jumping off this bad boy now. So anyway, folks, I'm going to say good night to everybody. Good morning, depending on where you are on the earth. Good chat. Appreciate you all jumping in there. Questions, opinions, always welcome. And always good to talk to everybody. And hopefully we'll get everybody else on at some point, because there's a lot of people used to be on in this. It's great to be able to get in here and have a good time. Make sure your notifications are on. Like I said, make sure you subscribe, hit that little box that drops down and say notify all. Notifications will say all. Make sure those are clicked, because some people got in here tonight. I didn't even know that. I never got a notification. There you go. And I think that's part of YouTube actually shadow banned his ass. And that's what happens most of the time. So we hope that don't happen, right? But anyway, I'm going to say good night to everybody. Good morning, depending on where you're at. Good having a good conversation. It was awesome. And we can do a lot more of this. Like I said, I'm going to try to jump in here about 5:30, 6 o'clock on Wednesday. And of course, that's Eastern time. So if you want to join me, jump in there. But anyway, I'm going to let you guys go. For now, peace. Much love to you all. We'll see you soon.